the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's time to set sail into the unknown once more. After a couple of weeks off, the drivers in the Precision Racing League GT3 Fix Series are ready to rumble. First starting here at the bumpy Sebring International Raceway. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV as we roll on with 2023 Season 2 of PRL action. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined once again for another season of GT3 competition alongside the one, the only Joey Tebb. And Joey, a new season, new faces, new tracks, and plenty more excitement to come. And we kick it off at Sebring with 10 more weeks up on the docket.
How crazy that everything is new this season, except we're starting at a track that's very much not new. The old classic at Sebring is a great place to start the season because everybody kind of knows what to expect. It's a very, very difficult place. You can't underestimate the bumps. You have to respect the bumps, but everybody does generally have a feel for how good, for how competitive they are at Sebring. That's going to change a little bit later this season because this is quite a funky little schedule. VIR coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Belle Isle is always a difficult place to take a GT3 car around, especially when you're in a 50-car field. The Nürburgring combined, we're going to the Nordschleife for the first time in many, many seasons. And of course, finishing off that little stretch, it's the newest track on iRacing at Jerez. So that'll be a whole new, even and level playing field for everybody.
You know, I love myself a good old trip over to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Plenty of excitement, I think, around that one. Also curious how many laps we're going to do. Fuel strategy going to be less than intriguing there because, let's be honest, the margins that you have in terms of lap times pretty small compared to what you'll get at Belle Isle, where maybe there's a bit more of a fuel window to play yourself around with. Drivers working their way through a open qualifying session, one of the changes that we've got here for this 2023 Season 2. Before we get rolling with on-track action though, it's time to thank those that make all of this possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceSpotSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for high-end pedal sets, handbrakes, or sequential shifters, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Maradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit maradness.com. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Open qualifying, Joey, at Sebring. Maybe that's not such a talking point, but when we work our way through the likes of the Red Bull Ring and some of the other tracks we've got up on the docket for the season, boy, is this going to be a dramatic talking point.
You're slightly lucky here at Sebring that it's one of the longest tracks we're going to this season. Obviously, the Nordschleife that's gonna expand out a little bit, but you can see anywhere we look on track right now, even with the length of this track, even with the slightly more shortness of this field than last season, there is no clean track. There is nowhere you could be on this track right now where you're riding on your own. That may be a help if you can get a little bit of a draft. It also may be a hindrance if you're behind somebody slower. And that's just another element you're going to have to navigate for the entirety of the season. You might see some of the faster drivers starting a little bit deeper in the field because they simply keep getting held up in qualifying.
So new season means new faces, potentially drivers switching over to different cars, and of course some of our drivers that succeeded in 2023 Season 1 taking that step forward to the GT3 Sprint Series, Joey.
Yes, the top two have been skimmed off, like the cream on top of a bucket of fresh milk. Michael Terrafino and Michael Pabiano have been sent up to the GT3 Sprint Series, and that leaves a sort of a power vacuum here. Who is going to be the Kurds who rise back to the top and form some delicious cheese? Will it be downtown Gary Brown who's back here in the series? If we go mathematically, Angelo Veloz finished third in the championship last season, so you would assume maybe he's the one who takes it over. But right now in qualifying, it's two names who we didn't even see last season. Evan Smogor and Luke Davis just decided to come on the scene and show everybody up who wanted to take that power.
Of course, we've also had a iRacing update in the time since the last race of 2023 Season 1 and this first race of Season 2, so maybe we'll see a slight shift in the balance of these cars. Let's not forget as well that we're rolling forward into the week of the iRacing Sebring 12 Hours powered by VCO, so of course with the second VCO Grand Slam, plenty of drivers going to be focused on another iRacing special event, and one of potentially the most difficult special events of the year because of the nature of this track. It's bumpy, it's unforgiving, we're heading down into the corner of a million lines, but of course there's only a couple of them that actually get you through here safely. Of course, McLaren currently sitting up in third, Andre Benatti being a bit brave with his car choice for the season.
It's very interesting to see the McLaren fall back into popularity, but these are the things we always talk about from season to season, from update to update. As things change in the cars, you see drivers switching back and forth and back and forth. There's very few drivers who stick with the same car season after season because sometimes you find new strengths with the fixed setups, with the BOP. Sometimes the McLaren suddenly comes back into popularity, and it looks like that might be our Ford this season.
Oh no, are you telling me we've got multiple Fords? I see Eric Kulaga, I see Jay Steffi.
Yeah, we still have one or two Fords, but I think the McLaren is really it's the upstart. It's the underdog this season.
Yeah, but as Andre Benatti shows there, it's not always the easiest to get the most out of. I did see there's a few drivers trying to bring the Ford back into vogue across of the GT series. Don't think this is necessarily the track for it. Over the years in iRacing, it's been known for being a pogo stick. We'll see how it fares out here. Remember what we're in for through the course of the race. We've got pit stops expected because we've got limited fuel tanks in both the Sprint and the Fixed Series as Jeff Carollo jumps up to fourth in another one of the McLarens. He switches over from a Lamborghini, if my memory serves correctly. But pit exit merge here, Joey, is an interesting talking point. We saw it here on RaceSpot in the BMW M-Sim Cup just this past Sunday.
Definitely going to have to watch your relative through turn one, and with the amount of cars we have, you can see the marching ants down there on the bottom of your screen. It's round one. It's the biggest field we're going to have this season. I believe Aero Urexo is going for a little bit of an oopsie there. You're going to have to watch your relative. You're going to have to make sure that you're not merging directly ahead of somebody and wrecking yourself.
Oh!
It's the first race of the season, and there's always those first race of the season jitters, and we're finally seeing them in qualifying.
Now, who was that? Because that was not Errol or Exoid. That got absolutely turfed.
I see Brad Winter back in the pits. Could have been him. Could have been Jason Ahrensberg. It could have been anybody. I only saw Bumper. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, okay, well, this is where the RaceSpot replay TV machine is really going to get a workout here today, so we'll see if we can pick up what happened there, because that was a monumental shunt, and already we're having to go back in time to pick up something that's happened. Here we go, so it's coming down.
Sully Sod gets clipped there. Poor old Sully. Sometimes when you get caught up in traffic here, you expect to get held up, but you don't expect to get murdered by a Porsche.
I tell you what, though, Sully does a great job to get out of the way in time and reset his car. Just right on board with him. This is the danger of open qualifying, I guess.
Yep, you gotta... There's nothing Sully could have done there. You don't really expect somebody to wreck on a straight, but it's the first round of the season. There's always those jitters, and unfortunately, somebody in the 50-car field is going to get wiped out once or twice, and Sully is... That's going to be his qualifying basically done, unless he can get out very, very quickly, and that's going to be very disappointing for him. He was one of the fastest drivers last season, and he's 19th right now.
Now, I don't know off the top of my head if this is the case or not, but it is a fixed setup series, which means drivers can't set fuel levels. Do they have a qualifying specific setup, Joey?
I don't think so.
So they're running race fuel, which means it's going to be as heavy as it gets, and really the benefit of a 20-minute session is you can burn some fuel, come back into pit lane a couple of times, get some fresh boots on the car, and effectively 20 minutes isn't too far from burning the entirety of the tank of fuel anyway. So, like you say, qualifying done and dusted, and that's something else that I guess we'll be talking about. The fact that qualifying is all about setting up for 20 minutes, hopefully to get your car as light as possible, and go at the very end.
We'll see if Evan Smogor's been able to do that. I don't know how many laps he's been around here. He doesn't really need any more speed necessarily. We'll see if he does go around for one more lap, or if he decides to pull it in here. He is going to go around one more time, so whether he does still have a full tank of fuel or whether he has spent the last couple of minutes exhausting a little bit of it, trying to get this Porsche as light as humanly possible. See as he sends it through turn one here in the Porsche. Very, very difficult corner. Trying to get the car all the way to the inside. The many possible apexes there. Only one of them is actually going to help you through turn one there. Then harden the brakes into turn two. Getting really pogo sticky through this sector depending on the car you're in. Lots of curbs that you want to avoid. Hop the curb on the exit there. And you get a little bit of respite for a moment, but it is a curved straight, so your arms are still moving.
He had a lot of lock coming out onto that short run into the hairpin. Gary Brown up to 5th position. Some of the curbs will suit cars better than others as well. That's something to consider as one of the BMWs goes a bit wide in towards the hairpin. New season also means new liveries across the board, and drivers, I'm sure, will get their cars updated a couple of times as well, and so I'm sure we'll see some...
Shade.
A little bit of shade. Maybe also shade at Hugo Luis, who may not have given drivers as much time as they would have wanted to get their paints uploaded.
Blame Hugo.
I know.
Blame Hugo.
Exactly. I'm doing this because he's on a plane right now, and so I can't get in trouble, at least until he lands.
Where's Hugo on a plane to? I didn't even ask.
Big news, Germany.
Again.
Well, technically to the Netherlands, and then he's going to drive to Germany, but, you know.
Basically Germany.
Same thing. Here we go. Coming to the end of qualifying, going to see a handful of cars just peel off to pit lane, including Nicolas Herrera. Behind him, the 99 was going to be the next one to come through. Alexander Obedi, someone I've seen in some rallycross cars, finds 0.2 of a second up to 8th position. Next up is the 21 machine, who will come towards the line in another BMW. David Morse does not find any improvement in time. Now, will Evan Smogor find a bit more separation at the front while weaving to the line? And he will not. But currently still holds pole, and only Angelo Veloce really inside of the top 10 was on track and is now also in pit lane.
Just a little bit of an anticlimax at the end here. I think Greg McEnany's still out there. Potentially, he might have some speed in that Forge Racing entry from 46th on the grid. Here's J.R. Gregory. back for, I believe, back for the first time in many, many seasons. I don't believe he's a debuting driver. He's going to debut into the pit lane, though, as he pulls off, and there is somebody in a Lamborghini coming around in that beautiful, bright blue livery, and it's old Zachary Yurt, who we know from the IRO4 series in previous seasons, moving over to GT3 this season, and he'll be starting dead in the middle of the field, basically.
Chad Dick, no improvement in his final effort. Just 3 cars left on track. One other change, of course, with this open qualifying is drivers get to finish the lap that they're on when the checkered flag flies, and so a bit of an extended section at the end now of these qualifying sessions. Greg McAnane. Oh, wow. A, I butchered that name. He
did a McAnane across the line there.
Yes, A, I butchered that name, but B, wow, what was that?
He was just hitting that Greg McAnane. Watch, that's going to be clipped, I can guarantee you.
Oh,
I think if I know Greg McAnane, I have a feeling he's going to love Greg McAnane.
I know. It wasn't bad. I mean, I made up a dance there, and he responded.
Exactly.
Rose to the occasion. Buck Hamilton does not improve. That's all the cars across the line in qualifying, and now the sun continues to set. Quick look at weather conditions. 75 Fahrenheit in the air. We're in the evening, and it's only going to get cooler from here, so see how the cloud cover shakes things up. Tires not necessarily going to be the biggest factor here, especially given the relatively short nature of the race.
Yeah, tire changes never happen in this series. For those of us, or for those of you who are joining us in this series for the first time, pit stops are seemingly only required by the laws of physics here. You cannot go around Sebring for 35 minutes with the fuel regulations here, with the fuel restrictions, without having to stop for fuel. But because the tires aren't going to wear that much, because the stop isn't going to be long enough, you're not going to have enough time to put tires on while you're putting the fuel in, it's never worth to take tires. The only way to get an undercut is to get out of traffic. We'll be talking about that a little bit later too.
Oh, but we saw how busy the track was. We'll see how split up the field gets, especially given how crazy starts tend to be over here at Sebring. Going to be an interesting start to the season. Respect the bumps, respect the traffic as well, I'm sure. Who sets their stall out early on? We'll find out for round number 1 of 2022 Season 3. Let's run you down through today's starting grid. It's going to be Evan Smogor that lines up in pole position. He's got Andre Bonatti alongside with Luke Davis and Jeff Carollo rolling on row number 2. It's going to be Gary Brown from 5th position with the sunglasses on, I hope. Angelo Veloz in the McLaren rolls alongside on row number 3. It's Rodrigo Morales and Alexander Abadi behind, with Errol Orexoy and Eric Kulaga rounding out the top 10, with the Ford actually being able to sneak its way forward on the outside of row number 5. Dale Peterson in the Ferrari alongside with Steven Martinez in the Vulture Motorsports car, 11th and 12th positions. Justin Delano in 13th in a rather spiffy Scuderia Spazzino East number 38. He's got Matt Scherf alongside with Sully Saad and Matt Dinsmore 15th and 16th. Trevor Houston lines up 17th inside of Kevin Hansen, while completing the top 20 it's Joachim Bakker and J.R. Gregory. Frank Johnson and then Michael Kulago 21st and 22nd, with Chad Dick and then Buck Hamilton 23rd and 24th. Greg Doucette as well as Zachary Yurt behind them on row number 13. Colin McKenzie in the Lunatic Racing car that we saw Nick McLaughlin hoping for a shout-out for in 27th. Ryan Luna alongside, and then other of the Audis, Christopher Rhines and then Phil Amaro behind them on row number 15. Big field, Sean Mulholland and then Nick Dawson Latham behind them. Jay Steffi, Alex Wright, 33rd and 34th, with Ryan Chandler, the best of the Chandlers, at least starting off with Rodrigo Michelin alongside. David Morse, Regan Chandler, Mark Bray and Steve Bammer through the top 40, with Jason Arensberg and then Felix Felice 42nd. The cars begin their roll for what is a full pace lap here, so plenty of time for drivers to get some heat into their tires, with Matt Hilton in the BMW alongside the Lamborghini of Nicholas Carangis. It's a Ferrari and then an Audi behind, with Walter Walden and Brad Winter 47th and 48th. And then Nicholas Herrera in the Lamborghini and the BMW of Sam Hill rounding out the blockbuster field, already rolling around here at the Sebring International Raceway. We get a great look from up above. Getting a season underway is so important, Joey, especially given that in 10 rounds, drivers know that there's only a couple of them that they're really going to be able to drop.
You get one drop week in the PRL. Of course, you only do get that 1 week to drop. You can generally afford maybe a mistake or two. Nobody's going to have a truly perfect season unless you're one of those crazy people in one of the pro series. There's always going to be a few mistakes. There's always going to be a few stumbles And in a season like this, when it's only 10 races, it's all about staying consistent across the course of the season. It's all about picking up points whenever you can, even if you are, for example, someone like Sully Saad, who's far deeper in the field than he wants to be right now. He's starting 19th after fighting for wins on occasions last season. His only goal right now, survive the potential carnage on lap 1 and pick up every single point you can get here in week 1.
I have seen clean starts here at Sebring. I've also not seen clean starts at Sebring. I've seen incidents coming out of Sunset before you've even reached the green flag. One thing to remember though is turn 1 has got gravel on the outside, and it's such a high commitment, high speed corner that with cold tires there's always a bit of a tendency for drivers to run a little bit too wide, especially on the inside, and force drivers off and into the slightly dirtier stuff, Joey, and from there you're holding on and just going for a ride.
And it's not just Sully Saad who's going to be getting aggressive on lap 1. There's going to be a lot of drivers who are going to look to turn 1 as a place where they can really take advantage. When people are fanning out 3, 4, 5 wide, you're going to see a lot of drivers deeper in the field looking to take advantage there. I'm glad we have this full pace lap, because with 50 drivers in the field, there's a lot of people who need to get shout-outs. There is a little bit deeper in the field, Colin McKenzie, who we saw fighting for podiums last season in that beautiful paint scheme. He's starting 27th. He's got a lot of work to do. Ryan Luna, who we normally see in that banana cream car, he switched to a Toyota livery, ironically, in that Audi. He's starting deep in the field. Zachary Yurt, Greg Doucette, who finished on the podium in the last race of the season. There's a lot of storylines here, a lot of people on the bottom of the field who are desperately going to be trying to push their way forward.
In terms of strategy, I've already mentioned it once, but I think it's going to be interesting, especially if we do have, as expected, a few incidents on the opening lap, how far behind drivers get scattered, because it's not the lengthiest pit lane here, and therefore I don't think there's going to be many at the front that are going to be able to take the undercut, Joey.
Yeah, you're going to have a very, very, very hard time of finding clean track here to be able to do that undercut, so I think we'll probably see, fittingly for the first race of the season, a pretty typical PRL strategy where the leaders try to go as far as possible.
So here we go, the start of 2023 Season 2. Whatever happened in the previous 10 rounds of Season 1, it's all in the history books. You look forward and focus on the next 10 weeks. You focus on what lies ahead at Sebring, respecting the bumps. We're ready to rumble once more, and the green flag is in hand for Evan Smogor, who leads us to the start of a new season in the Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed Series. Single file for the top 2, a bit of a shuffling further back as we fly our way through, with the cold tires not an issue for those at the very front, with the ability to fan themselves on through. Safely through turn 1, they juke their way on through, and now onto the brakes for the very first time, side by side with Kalaga and Morales, but no changes inside of the top 6.
It's a surprisingly calm start. Normally in the first round of the season, you have some drivers who come in with those first round jitters, but for now, through turn 1, through turn 2, things seem basically completely clean. I see nobody off the road, but here we come into the pinch point of the hairpin. This is always a difficult spot. Some people love to be very, very late in the brakes here on lap 1. Looks like the first half of the field have made it through cleanly, but there's always the potential for a checkup at the back.
Buck Hamilton has just gone off the road, and Sean Mulholland has taken the worst of that, but for the most part, surprisingly tidy start, and really with 50 drivers, the tempo has been set quite nicely. As a BMW, I think, around just at the very back of the shot. I think that's Phil O'Mara who's dropping his way down as drivers funnel their way in towards Cunningham Corner, and then through the crucial tower where if you make a mistake and push too wide, you lose all your momentum, and then into Jean de Bion Bend, you become very, very vulnerable to a lunge down into the inside. Not really a factor for those at the very front, as there's more drama now at the back with Sam Hill, Waldo Walden, and Felix Felice all getting tangled up in that one.
Yeah, what in the Sam Hill has gone on back there? Greg McEnany as well was involved, so we got through about half of a lap pretty cleanly, and then things decided to kick off, but things are already kicking off up front here. The battle for second. Here comes Luke Davis trying to go around the outside of Andre Bonatti at Sunset. That's a very, very difficult move. He sends it very, very deep, but he might just get that done around the outside.
Oh, beautifully done. In fact, so committed that Bernardi was so tight on the bumps to the inside, he didn't want to risk getting onto the power. Carollo not going to be able to take advantage, but Smogor now already 1.7 seconds clear at the front, with a draft a little bit weaker than what we saw in 2023 Season 1. That's Steve Bammer that's gone off the track. Nick Dawson-Latham has become a victim of Sunset Bend. We scramble to the end of lap number 1, already 2 cars stationary in pit lane. First through 48, split by 50 full seconds.
Nick Dawson-Latham running one of those very, very familiar rookie esports paint schemes. We see another BMW battle here, one of those ever so popular moves off of turn 1 where you try and pull a switch back on the car ahead. This is the battle for 31st, David Morse versus Regan Chandler. BMW versus BMW. It's going to go back to train mode off of turn 2.
I think that draft is going to be interesting, at least at the very top level, going into that BMW MSIM Cup, talking with some of the drivers there. Did think it was going to be harder to make moves. Kevin Ellis Jr. did prove that it's not necessarily the hardest thing in the world. We'll get a good sort of expectation for what to think about for the rest of the season. Johnson and Gregory side by side as they wind out of Cunningham and in towards Tower. It's the Porsche that's got the inside, and you really don't want to be caught out hanging on the outside, and so the Ferrari tucks its way back on in. Meanwhile at the front, Davis already in the BMW brings the gap down to Smogor to 1.3 seconds as they come out of Le Mans corner onto the run into Sunset Bend. Single file behind, a train going back effectively at this point to 20th position.
And remember, oh, there goes Ryan Luna around, just as I mentioned. He was in that interesting Toyota livery in an Audi. Poor old Ryan Luna running into bad luck once again to start this season. He needs a good race to turn himself around, but here comes Davis off of the final corner within 1.2 seconds. That gap was about 1.9 in the last lap. He is bringing that gap down, and give us one more lap where you're 0.6 faster than the leader, and he'll be well and truly in draft range.
Yeah, and then the question will be how much does he want to ride, especially knowing that fuel window here may be an interesting play as to gaining some track position. So this now is the 3rd lap of the race. Let's go back to lap number 1 and begin a quick look at some of the replays. This was just a bit of a parking lot into turn 1 as they all kind of stack up behind Jay Steffi.
And you saw Nick Dawson-Latham in the baby blue and red car on the outside, just kind of throwing it off the road to avoid all of that. So I guess you have to make your decisions in the moment there. And he decided, you know what, I'm going to preserve myself. I'm not going to get involved in this accident. I'm just going to throw it off the road. Here's what happened into the hairpin. Again, just one of those checkups. You see Zachary Yurt in the baby blue Lamborghini basically parking it there, and the YS Motorsports Porsche behind does get on the brakes eventually, but still a little bit of a fender bender there.
Eventually, I like the way that you put that. And again, let's not forget big fields. It's sometimes hard to just judge, and it's always going to be a little bit more chaotic at the starts of the races. And of course, now that we've started to spread ourselves out a little bit more, it will be a little bit easier. We'll see how it all plays out, of course, for them heading into probably around 10 to 15 minutes to go, when we're likely to see them roll their way down on towards the pit lane. Once again, sweeping through, you can see the sun continues to set. Alexander Abadi gets very wide, dips all 4 tires off into the grass, and is going to get attacked now by Eric Kulagi in the Ford, who cycles his way forward to 7th.
I'm so happy to see Eric Kalaga back in that Ford this season. He did such a great job with it last season, and it's still doing him very, very well there. Rodrigo Morales, another one of the We Race Esports McLarens, looking to represent that McLaren very, very well. As Gary Brown, downtown Gary Brown is going downtown as he clobbers the inside wall. He lost it off a Sunset, and Jeff Carollo's involved as well.
Yep. A little bit of a clumsy one, but it's so difficult. Andre Benatti tagged as well, and now rolling the wrong way. This is so dangerous, and quite frankly, he needs to get on the brakes. It's not what he wants to hear, but he's got to just get out of the way. He's continuing to rolling, now on the racing line effectively. The drivers will drink their way on through, but not necessarily what you want to see. It's created a breakaway at the front with Smogor and Davis split by 1.6, and then 5 seconds back to Abadi and Kalaga, who now fight for a podium spot.
That is an absolute disaster. I was just about to mention Jeff Carollo. finally back in the fight for the podium. He's had a difficult past couple of seasons. After that incredible debut he had at Road America 2 seasons ago, where he came so close to winning his first race in that Lamborghini, just hasn't gone his way since then, and unfortunately it's all come undone again with that heavily damaged McLaren. Gonna have to wait for a replay to see what happened there, but I have to imagine he didn't get any help there.
We're going to have to, I think, take a look at quite a few different things, of course, because it all cycled its way on through, and now, remember, 50 started. We're left with all 10 drivers, rather, already down on towards the pit lane, so it's been a bit of a calamity for some. Oh, it's a spin in front by the 57 that all checks it up, and then Benanti actually gets tagged again as he tries to roll on through. How did we survive?
I have no idea, but we literally wiped out 3rd, 4th, and 5th there with Carollo going around all on his lonesome, just hit one of the bumps wrong, got a bunch of oversteer, tried to get on the brakes, didn't work. Gary Brown had nowhere to go, and Benanti eventually gets turned by Carollo, who wasn't trying to turn him there. That wasn't deliberate. The car was just broken, but poor old Benanti just needed a couple more inches there, and he would have been fine. Instead, he's driving down the highway backwards like a typical Florida driver.
I don't know. I feel like Californian drivers are still the worst. I don't know. Personally.
I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can beat Florida.
See, that's what I thought. And then I came to California. To be fair, not everyone in California. There are specific drivers in California. By the way, we missed most of the replays of what's happened so far. We've only taken a look at a handful of the incidents. So at some point, I'm sure we will try and work our way through a few different things. But at least for the time being, we have, I think, grabbed everything relatively important. One thing I think that we should kind of talk about, I guess, in towards the hairpin, was the thing that saw a handful really just check on up, including Dinsmore, all sorts, Ferraris losing bumpers, a couple of cars going up on their rear axles and then slamming back down.
That kind of looked like an AI race there at Sebring, when everybody just kind of forgets how to drive at the back of the field with those checkups, but that is the kind of thing.
AI isn't that bad.
At the back of the field at Sebring, it does tend to be like that, but it's very, very difficult when you're at the back of the field. There is basically guaranteed to be a checkup like that. Phil Amaro has a very, very weird moment coming off of the hairpin there, though I have no idea what happened there. I don't know if he had some suspension damage there that just yeeted him off the track, but poor old Phil Amaro already had some work to do for the back of the field, and he's still on pit lane. He's getting 8 minutes of damage repaired.
Yeah, no, I think for those who had to come down to pit lane, it was because it was significant contact, not insignificant contact. We'll check back in with the fight for the 3rd position as they work their way down the back straight. We'll take a look at another replay because, yes, there are a lot of things to look at, and that is Christopher Rines going around, and that involved that Toyota car as well.
Look at both of the Chandlers. Both of the Chandlers made it through.
There is some really impressive wreck avoidance going on, I was just about to say.
Both of the Chandlers in those iridescent new paint schemes. Look at that as we form a little bit of a parking lot here on the wide open space. Luna comes in. One of the YS Motorsports cars comes in, but look at that on the outside. That is beautiful. That's all the Chandler's luck for a whole season used up there.
Don't say stuff like that, because now we can blame you as the commentator's curse if things go bad for them for the rest of the season.
Well, I mean, if that happens, I'm right. So I think the opposite would be if everything goes right for them this season, it's a good commentator's curse for once.
I guess the commentator's curse does exist. That would definitively prove it.
Yes.
Lewis McLeod would have absolutely no way to argue with that. Moving on forward. Alex Wright has just been passed by Jay Steffi. I say, do love the look on these Martin Sports sponsored cars, but Alex Wright more concerned about the fact that Ryan Chandler has really just made him work his way back even more. Now the other Chandler works on forward. Ryan and Regan fighting side by side.
Poor old Alex Wright getting double Chandlered, but those are Shamrocks. I had to look very, very closely. It's interesting. Maybe more themed to a couple of weeks ago, but you know what? We didn't have a PRL race on St. Patrick's Day, so you might as well get your thematic livery in a week late. Better than not at all.
So, Regan Chandler not using the, what do you call it, glaucoma background?
The glaucoma background, it's gone. We can still see the books. I think there's like a bucket of toys back there. They've now been covered up by our lower third, but That is definitely the house of a man who has a family, because there are a lot of mysterious items back there. And there's Ryan Chandler. You can see his background as well, getting a little bit of a stretch there on one of the short straights.
I approve of the poster.
And he doesn't have his phone stand anymore, unless he's just zoomed it in a little bit. I think I called him a nerd for having that at the last race of last season, so maybe he's adjusted so he doesn't get bullied this time.
Joey the bully. I mean, unacceptable.
I'm commentating an iRacing race right now on RaceSpotTV. I don't think anybody could not call me a nerd.
Yes, no. I mean, come on. We are king nerds.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
It's one of those things where it's weird to kind of explain, you know? I'm a sim racing commentator. The concept of telling someone that I flew to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to commentate on a virtual race, come on, that's just weird.
It is very, very weird, especially when you're applying for jobs. I think I'll tell you after the broadcast is over that some people understand it more than others. Some people have no idea what iRacing is. Let's
not talk about that story, because that stuff, because I've got some bad stuff. Don't put that at the very top of your resume, is what I'll say. Even if you've left your previous job. I'm just saying, even if that. This fight's really interesting. Matt Scherf and Matt Dinsmore, the Throttle Thursday car trying to squeeze its way on through. Got to be careful, because they're already 1.5 back from Trevor Houston, but we are seeing just how the fact it's a little bit more difficult to make the moves happen. Don't know if that's draft related, fixed setup related. Dinsmore still with these half-hearted looks, and Scherf not really giving it too much of a sweat.
Yeah, these are two drivers, despite the fact that they have the same name. They weren't two drivers who really found each other on track much last season. Matt Scherf won 2 races, I believe. I know he won Monza. I'm trying to remember if he actually did win a second race. I think he did. I believe he did. It may have just been the one. Matt Dinsmore, on the other hand, had a pretty strong season. Just wasn't up there with him, though. So we see Nick Dawson-Lathan for Rookie Esports. We've got John Quinn, the Mighty Quinn, in the chat, repping his teammate. Unfortunately, his teammate has given him less to cheer for through Sunset Bend, and I think Ryan Luna's got into more trouble as well.
Yeah, so this is going to be into Tower. You've already seen the damage on the front. Now he just gets checked up behind Nicholas Karangis, and then, whoa, lucky not to get tagged once again.
I'm surprised that car's still out there. He had one of the heaviest hits of anybody in that accident a little bit earlier. As we see downtown Gary Brown here. I think this is the incident with this is the incident with Corolla. We finally see the onboard of Gary Brown. Absolutely nothing he could have done there. He's definitely going to be a championship contender this season, but that is quite the hit to take your drop week in week 1.
Yeah, really. I always say this, no matter what championship you're in, it's all about consistency, right? Go even to the highest level. World Championship last year, Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Diego Pinto didn't win a race until the very end of the season, basically. How did he put himself in the championship picture? By being at the front week in, week out, and that's something that is the case in every championship at every single level.
Yeah, and I don't have all the statistics, so I don't know if there's ever been a winless season in the PRL. I have to imagine that at some point, with the amount of seasons they've run, there has to have been a winless championship one of these days. I don't think it's happened in the GT3 series, but I'm going to have to check that. I'm going to have to do some research over the week to see if that's ever happened.
Someone, I think, asking where Michael Terrafino is. He'll be in action in, probably 40 minutes' time or so when we head over to the GT3 Sprint Series after getting a bump up to the open setup competition. Continue our cycle through the replays, by the way.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch is the exact word I was thinking of. It's Chad Dick and Colin McKenzie. They try and make a baby GT3 car and then find themselves somehow ending up in the wall.
Let's see it again. There's Chad Dick forcing his way to the inside. Colin McKenzie in one of those other luck of the Irish paint schemes. None of that, though, because he's managed to find one of the few concrete walls that's just completely exposed. And poor old Colin McKenzie, he got a bunch of podiums last season. I mentioned that. It was a whole new Colin McKenzie at the end of last season. He's going to have to wait one more week to go back to that form.
Would you be shocked to hear that they both had to come to the pit lane on that very lap?
Yes, actually, because the front end of that Audi is so strong that I would expect it to be fine hitting concrete at full throttle. But even the hard-nosed Audi can't take quite a hit that big.
Eric Kulaga coming into pit lane nice and early with 17 minutes done in this race and still 18 minutes to go. He's basically splitting this one in half.
Very, very interesting. He must have seen something on his relative that there was a little bit of open space. I'm looking deeper in the field right now. He may find a little bit of a window between Russell Elizondo and Brad Winter.
Speaking of, by the way.
for about 34, though. No, Russell Elizondo, is this how the door opened? That might just be how that door opened, how that gap on track opened there. Is the 42 of Nicholas Herrera goes for a little bit of a spin. Here is Kalaga, though. Is he going to come out in clean air? Not even close. He's going to come out behind a BMW and a few others, so he's in trouble here.
As there's a BMW stationary on the outside of turn 1. Crucially for Kalaga, did not merge with anyone on the pit exit, which is, again, not the easiest thing to do. You're basically coming from off the track onto the racing line, the exit of turn number 1. We've seen plenty of drama there. Front of the field, let's check in with Smogor and Davis. 2.4 seconds separating them. Smogor looking great in the Porsche.
Yeah, we saw Davis bring that gap down a little bit. We got our hopes up that we might have a little bit of a closer battle, but Davis has very much stagnated here. Smogor has brought the pace up, I guess. Maybe he saw that Davis was closing a little bit and put the hammer down a little bit more. iRating doesn't mean usually anything in a league situation here, but they are very different as Matt Dinsmore's gone around, and he's trying to figure out how to rejoin the track here without taking people out.
Is this the new version of Plaid, by the way?
It might be. It looks like Dazzle camo. It's like orchestral maneuvers in the dark down there at Throttle Thursday.
I was going to say, it feels like it's something similar, but they've decided that they're going in the Lamborghini. They want to go for modern, urban, stealth, tactical warfare kind of a deal going on there. As Dinsmore's going to drop to the 23rd position. Regan Chandler will get to the inside, in towards the final part of Le Mans curve. Errol Orexoy responds to the pit call from Eric Kulaga, and so now his Audi trundles down the pit lane. We've already seen that it didn't necessarily work out for Kulaga. Buck Hamilton also in. See what Orexoy does. 12.8 seconds for Kulaga in the lane.
I think Kulaga's currently in the process of getting held up by Rodrigo Michelin, so I don't know what Aero Urexoy is thinking here, other than just following what his teammate is doing, although you just saw Michelin in the Lamborghini coming in ahead of Kulaga, so he's got a little bit of clean track here, but not for long. He's got a lapped BMW up ahead who should hopefully get out of the way, and then it's just more cars for position. Matt Dinsmore is up ahead, Chandler is up ahead, here comes Urexoy, comes out behind his teammate.
At the very least, they have found one another, and now we'll see how it plays out. Alexander Abadi still in a great spot to get a podium here at the start of the season. He's pulled a 2.3 second buffer to Angelo Veloz behind, and then Martinez sits 1.6 seconds further back. Again, Abadi's someone that I've seen slinging the dirt in some rallycross action more than anything else, but I guess the one thing that is always important is adaptability. Someone like a Johan Harth has competed across of the iRacing World Championship scene. In fact, Alex Bergeron, a name that some may be familiar, not only so dominant in the iRacing World of Outlaws World Championships, but has competed in eNASCAR when it used to be called Peak, has competed in the IRX World Championship Series, has competed in the Off-Road World Championship Series, competed in the iRacing Grand Prix World Championship back in the day as well.
Very, very busy guy, and that's the kind of thing that we see a lot in the PRLs. Our two leaders are in, Smogor's in, Davis is in right behind him.
So are we using a bit more fuel this season? Because this seems early relative to what we would have been used to.
Well, Sebring is a pretty fuel-thirsty track with the long straight, so I mean, judging by the fact that literally everybody is coming in right now, I have to imagine that we've reached kind of the hard limit of the fuel tank, so Sebring just being especially fuel-thirsty this season. Everybody is in. It's a party on pit lane.
It's a pit road party, and who can get their pit crew working the best. It's all going to be about minimizing the amount of time you stay stationary. Smogor, 15.4 seconds. A little bit longer than what we saw from the likes of Kulaga and Orexo, but he still wins the race off a pit road, clear from Luke Davis. And then Alexander Abadi, who now rolls and sees a bit of a gap behind him to Veloz and Delano, who are going to be neck and neck as they work their way off of pit exit, but behind, in front of them rather, a nice and clear margin for Evan Smogor. 3 full seconds clear at the front of the field, with 14 minutes left to run.
And I tell you what, I'm about to eat my words with the Eric Kalaga Aero Urexoy strategy. I thought they were both getting held up there, and they weren't. They both just got by Angelo Veloz, who I think just lost it coming out of the pits.
I think Kalaga involved in it as well, and it happened at the scene of all the drama in the 12 Hours of Sebring just this past weekend. Turn 3 technically, because corner numbers are hard. Has already taken more victims. Veloz really struggling, and now finally back up to speed.
I was just saying that it worked perfectly for Kalaga and Urexoy. They both they both made up, I think, about 3 or 4 spots on that strategy, and suddenly they lose them all as they trip over Bonatti. Or over Veloz, rather.
We'll have to go back and see exactly what happened. It's been a pretty dramatic start to the season, and now it wasn't directly pit exit and the merge that I was talking about, I think, but here we'll find out. Yeah, not the merge, it's the battle in towards, that's turn 2 the right, now turn 3 is the left, and yeah, there's about a car width there between the apex and where Eric Kalaga ended up going, and he was a day late and $1 short.
I think that's Kalaga getting a little bit desperate, seeing his opportunity there to the inside after this strategy really worked out for him. He got a little bit desperate and just got a little bit too late in the brakes, trying to take advantage. He knows that passing is fairly difficult here at the head of the field, and unfortunately, he's still in the top 5. He just may get a couple of penalty points after tonight, unfortunately.
Is Arnaud Genet the steward for the PRL again?
Yep, still is.
So the stern eye of Mr. Genet.
I think he gets a couple of vacation weeks this season, I think, finally. So I think J.R. Williams gets to be the ire of every driver for a couple of weeks.
I volunteer Joey Tebbin as tribute.
Maybe. That's a great way to leapfrog your way into, is Andre Bonatti's in? So he got an incident point penalty? What's going on here? He's had to pit again.
David Morse having issues as well. Yeah, not sure what's going on with Bonatti, who is not shown with a black flag, at least on my end, so as he comes into pit lane and actually stops, maybe there is a reason for that. Smogor has built the advantage up to 4 full seconds. Davis may have got caught out with some traffic there potentially, but my oh my, running away at the front is that Porsche.
There's a little bit of a longer stop, like you said, but Luke Davis got a little bit of a sight of the lead. He was within 1.5 seconds again. And then suddenly this last lap has just been a real stinker for Luke Davis. He has to make sure he doesn't get complacent here because he does want to push, he does want to try and bring that gap down, but he also likely knows that bringing down a 4-second gap in the last 5 or 6 laps of this race is going to be exceptionally difficult. He's just got to make sure he keeps pushing, doesn't make any mistakes, because he has second on lock right now. That's still a very good result.
Regan Chandler's just had some issues of his own. Let's take a look at how he's had us. Oh, and it happened early in through that opening complex. Veloz, I have a feeling, by the way, damage repairs is why he's on in. Dinsmore gets past Regan Chandler, as meanwhile, Errol Orexoy stranded on the outside of Tower Turn, and now with the rejoin, has to go straight across the track because he knew that he wasn't going to get turned around in time.
I didn't want to have to break out Arrow Urexoy again, but it's happened again, unfortunately. Happened in the last race of last season, happened in the first race of this season. This guy he was known for being very, very clean, but the Audi gets a little bit pendulumy on the curb, may have a little bit of damage from that incident with his teammate in Veloz, and poor old Arrow Urexoy living up to the Urec in his name again.
Yeah, that is quite fitting, isn't it? I mean, it's right there. Unfortunately goes around. It's this that I think was tricky because you have no grip on the grass, so it's not like you can spin it around easily. Lights up the rears, thinks he has an opportunity, and once he realizes that if he does slow down to spin it around, he's going to get tagged by those on the racing surface, does the only thing that he can and sacrifices himself, as now Sully Saad and Matt Scherfever coming together into turn number 3.
We had about 30 minutes without those first race jitters up front. They're finally here. And downtown Gary Brown really takes advantage of that after after getting involved heavily in that incident at Sunset Bend a little bit earlier. He's getting a top 7 for his efforts here. Little bit of argy-bargy. Scherf ends up clipping the grass because Saad didn't give him very much room there. We'll take a look at another angle here. Scherf was trying to go around the outside. Nose was to the inside by the time he got to the braking zone. Just got a little bit muscled over to the side, and both of them get bowled out of it.
Yeah, got to be careful. That corner kind of jinks one way, then the other. If you're curious about lap times, we're sitting just over 2 minutes or so. We got into the 159s, I think it was high 158s as well in qualifying, but race pace just that little bit slower. Race leader Evan Smogel, 4.3 seconds clear at the front of the field, is working his way in towards Sunset Bend. And so that's going to mean that we should have 5 laps to go this time by.
Theoretically. We always end up in these situations with this math that's always so difficult. Are you going to get an extra lap? Are you not? I think we are good here to get 5 laps to go here as Smoker crosses the line, because we're running, just barely over 2-minute lap times. Abadi is one driver who I want to mention here because he's lost a bit of pace as well. He was keeping touch with Luke Davis. He was still about 4 seconds back. It was going to be difficult for him to end up on anything higher than third, but that last lap was also not very strong for him, and he's fallen 10 seconds off the lead.
Maybe traffic again, not sure. Yeah, you can see those lap times there. Was able to stay in the 2 minutes, just under 2:01s for the 4 laps before the pit stop, but since then, unable to crack his way down below. Combined 121 seconds around the Sebring International Raceway. Always great to get those lap times numbers. Rodrigo Morales has had an issue, and he's going to dive his way back onto the pit lane as the flames spits out the back of the McLaren.
This has not been a very good day for We Race Esports. I don't think any of their cars were not involved in incidents. Andre Bonatti was involved. He is out basically, and now Morales, and this has not been a good day for We Race. They had so much speed, but the return of that McLaren, it has not been the return of the Mac, unfortunately for them, as it's a Porsche party for 7th.
Porsche party, that's some alliteration going on there. You got the yellow and blue for the 49, the black and red for the 43. Gary Brown, Matt Scherf winding up through Cunningham. A bit of damage on the front end of the 49 machine as well. May impact a little bit of that front end turn-in. Let's not forget as well, these cars running identical setups in this GT3 Fix Series. It's open setups up on deck next, of course, though, with the GT3 Sprint Series, of course, here at Sebring. Slight change for those who have been around for Tuesday night GT3s for RaceSpotTV PRL coverage. No AM and Pro classes in the GT3 Sprint Series anymore, so Michael Terrafino going to be thrown straight to the wolves, Joey, with some of the best that GT3 has to offer.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be very happy if he's fighting for 17th instead of the lead, but we saw what Miguel Angel Fonseca was able to do last season. After being an AM driver, he was legitimately able to fight with the pros last season. So anything could happen with Michael Terrafino in about 26 minutes time or so. But we ride on board with Matt Scherf here, one of the most popular drivers in the chat. The whole Scherf family is back, because of course they are. And he's fighting with a fellow damaged car of Gary Brown. So even though both of them do have damage, that basically evens them out here. They're both riding hurt. Gary Brown maybe a little bit more hurt, because remember, yes, he ended up basically T-boning Angelo Veloz at a solid 120, so he's definitely struggling, but shockingly, Downtown Gary Brown is still in the top 10 after that incident.
Where does the nickname Downtown Gary Brown come from?
I think it was a couple of seasons ago. It was at Catalunya. He had a bad qualifying. He was forcing his way forward. I think he had a little bit of contact with some other drivers. He was bullying some people out of the way. He was getting very, very aggressive.
He made Terry downtown.
Yep, and he made Terry Radford very happy. So old Downtown Gary Brown. Can't call him Uptown Gary Brown because that's not exciting. But Downtown Gary Brown always moving his way forward.
Chad Dick in that 930 having more issues. Check in with a bit of a replay as to what happened to him as we continue to track 7th and 8th as they work their way on through. This looks like a high-speed one.
Looks like security camera footage.
To be fair, we get infinite angles and infinite replays. It's better than CCTV footage that sometimes race control has to use. He clips the curb on the inside, gets the front left up in the air and spins it around, and helplessly out of control from there.
Yeah, you might have to sell that thing on the Alan J Automotive Network now, but over the first curb here, it just instantly gets out of shape, and there may be a lot of runoff here, but unless you're locking the brakes right away, it's going to be very, very difficult to save that. And they did update the grass on iRacing in the last update. There is a little bit more grip. It's less icy.
Oh, is it?
There's still it's still not going to help you very much when you're sliding through it.
A little bit of a look from Matt Scherf, but no real commitment there. No venom, but wide from Gary Brown. Door open for the 43. And slipping on through into 7th place, Matt Scherf grabbed the spot from the 49 machine as they wind towards the line to make what will be 3 laps to go. Because Evan Smogor already working into the hairpin. Really bumpy braking zone there, as most of the braking zones are, to be completely fair. 5.5 seconds, that margin at the front of the field, really setting the tone early is the Porsche. Up next on the docket, let's not forget to give it its full and proper title. Technically, it would be the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari. To everyone else who wants to keep sanity, it's Imola. Then the Red Bull Ring. We've already seen what open qualifying has looked like here at Sebring. Those are two tracks where it's going to be crazy as well.
Imola is going to be, it's going to be hellish to use any other word. You're going to get held up. You're guaranteed to get held up. It's a reasonably short track. It's not a place where the draft is going to help you that much. You're going to find traffic at Imola one way or another, so you better hope that that you've got a little bit of a clock set up for that 20-minute session, and maybe you decide to go out when some other drivers aren't out on track. You better hope you have a strategist to basically do what they do at F1 and find gaps on the track for you.
There's software that will do it for you, Joey. You don't even need a spotter. Don't need an engineer. Just need Z1 dashboard. I don't. Other software is available that I'm sure work as well, but that's the one that I know does it. Now, how reliable it is, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the question there. You know, we can do all sorts of things with AI nowadays, but still, if you're
yeah, they'll chat GPT us out of a job.
Oh well. You know, there's been some high school students that have tried to submit chat GPT essays, and you can still tell. It's pretty good, but it's not that good.
Okay, I tell you what. I've done this once before on a broadcast. We're going to do it again. I'm going to go to chat GPT, and it's going to write some of my lines for the GT3 Sprint Series, okay?
Oh, I did. When we went to iRacing Super Speedway a couple of seasons ago in the truck series, because that's not a real track, I made sure an AI wrote my intro there. But that was before chat GPT. That was one of the earlier versions a couple of seasons ago. So I basically plugged in. Today we're at iRacing Super Speedway, and it started giving me an intro about Charlotte Motor Speedway. So that's the limitation here, is we got to move for 12th.
Greg Doucette in the throttle Thursday, 77, down the inside of Joachim Bacher in that 330 Porsche, who might have a fight back on his mind into turn 3. Bit of a shove to the rear end, but Lamborghini holds straight. 2 laps to go. And still the fight for 12th will go on. Yeah, I tried to get ChatGPT to write some jokes for an Ivor Club Sport race at Mid-Ohio. It was really bad. It was really bad.
Yeah, robots are not funny. That's not going to do me very well when the robot uprising happens in a couple of years, but I'm just going to say it now. I'm going to live my truth. Robots are not funny. They will never replace real comedy.
Yeah,
real commentators.
I just asked it write me jokes about Sebring GT3 racing, and it says, why did the Sebring GT3 car go to the gym to get in shape for the long haul? That is not the kind of joke I was hoping for, ChatGPT. I'm very disappointed in you. Evan Smogor, not disappointed in his performance. 6 seconds clear at the front of the field, heading into Sunset Bend for the penultimate time. Just one more lap to survive here at this bumpy Sebring International Raceway. We say respect the bumps. Evan Smogor hasn't really had to worry about too much over the course of the race. Just one more trip around to go, and Smogor will grab the victory to kick off the season.
It's very rare that you see a bronze or a brown car dominating a race. So I'm very happy to see that. I'm happy to see the diversity of color. The PRL always delivers with the paint schemes, but Evan Smogor, he's going to be easy to find out on track this season. Maybe a little bit dull, but there's nobody else in the field who's driving a shiny brown car.
This is also one of those tracks that's unique. You either get it or you don't, I think. See how it plays out next time at Imola. Curb usage there going to be important. How does the Porsche fare? We've already seen one Porsche not faring too well. Red Bull Ring VIR, that's always a fun one. Underrated one as well, Joey. Come on.
It's underrated, but it is a place that requires a lot of skill that I don't have, which makes me very happy that I'm not a driver in the field this season, because I would not be excited to have to tackle VIR, the Nordschleife, all sorts of difficult places with this field, because the field continues to get stronger and stronger. I mentioned that the 2 top drivers in the field got, but Sully Saad is going flippy-floppy a little bit there.
Yeah.
Aero Urexoy to the inside. Both of these guys have wrecked a little bit earlier, but Urexoy may have front-end damage. It's helping him a little bit better than Sully Saad, who's still flopping around there, just trying to make it to the end.
Yeah, that rear engine cover just does not want to stay on right now, if we can be completely honest right now. Interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if Sully Saad's a Talking Heads fan, because he's making flippy-floppy there, and he's probably saying, snap into position, I'm bouncing till I ache. There we go. We got the first Talking Heads reference of the season.
How many do you try and get in a broadcast?
I don't think I've ever actually got to do one before, so I'm happy that I've finally done it.
There we go. Joey gets a first on RaceSpotTV. At the front, it's going to be Evan Smogor to grab the first victory of the 2023 Season 2 Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed Series. The bumpy Sebring International Raceway caught out many a competitor here. Almost 15 full will not be classified. But at the front, no such drama for Smogor, who dominates 6 seconds clear of Luke Davis in the BMW. And then Alexander Abadi that will come across the line struggling in the second half of the stint, but grabbing the final step on the podium. An impressive showing to kick the campaign off. But let's not forget, we've still got one more race left to go tonight.
Indeed we do. Everybody bring it to the line. Here's some good results deeper in the field. Dale Peterson, definitely going to be one of our championship contenders this season, bringing it home 4th in the Ferrari Calaga. Even with that little incident that may get him some penalty points, still comes home in the top 5. Gary Brown and Matt Scherf, both good recovery drives from them. I think there was a little bit of trouble coming off the final corner for somebody who's fallen out of the top 20. Don't know who that was, but a lot of great recovery drives throughout the field.
Might have been Kalaga and Saad who fought their way across the line. In fact, no, there comes Sully Saad, getting myself confused with some other stuff on the timing screen. Look at the conditions as well. That's something to consider because it's going to be very similar for what we see with the GT3 Sprint Series coming up next. We didn't get really into full sunset nighttime conditions. Only a couple of minutes longer, of course, for the drivers in that GT3 Sprint Series. Of course, open setups to factor in as well. A look from up above at this legendary facility, a World War II airfield turned into a legendary racetrack. Just never suggest that we should reprofile it, otherwise you'll be banned from RaceSpotTV.
Maybe I can think about breaking that out if I'm feeling bad on a broadcast, if I'm feeling like, maybe I should get out of this endurance stint halfway through. Now I know what I can break out.
Maybe if you're feeling like you just don't want to deal with me anymore.
Maybe. At the end of this broadcast, in about 45 minutes, maybe this is how we break up.
Joey doesn't want to do another season with me at the end of the day, so we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. You're going to have to deal with me at the Nordschleife for just making sure that you say this is the best track in the world. I hope you're aware of that.
You know what? Something just came up. I'm not going to be able to make it that week. I'm not going to be able to do that.
You can say it's the second best track as long as you say Indianapolis is first.
I can go with the first one, but there might be triple digits of tracks ahead of the Nordschleife.
What is your favorite track in the world, or most prestigious? I think that's probably the better question.
Well, most prestigious is an obvious answer. It's Indianapolis. Good. There's not much you can do other than that. But my favorite track in the world is an impossible question, but I always tend to come back to Watkins Glen. Interesting.
So you're one of these people that would legitimately like a series that is just 12 weeks at Watkins Glen with different cars.
Yes, we've mentioned that before. People have been saying we need to do that, and I wholeheartedly endorse that.
All the cars are across the line. Remember, 50 took to the start. Let's run you down how they ended up finishing. Evan Smogor in the Flying Line Gold, leading Porsche across the line. 6 seconds clear of Luke Davis in the Lunatic Racing number 72, with Alexander Abadi grabbing the final spot on the podium. Peterson, Kalaga, Martinez 4th, 5th, and 6th with a Vulture Motorsports trio through 7th, with Matt Scherf jumping in front of Gary Brown to join Martinez. Delano and Houston round out the top 10. It's going to be Kevin Hansen in the BMW in the 11th spot, with Greg Doucette behind him. Jochen Bakker 13th in the Flying Line Racing Gold Porsche, with Frank Johnson and then Buck Hamilton through the top 15. Angelo Veloce recovers up to 16th in the McLaren, with J.R. Gregory, Jay Steffi, Errol Orexoy, and then Michael Kulager completing our top 20. A handful of those cars, of course, having issues over the course of the event. Sully Saad, well, the wobbly rear end holds on to at least grab a 21st spot at the end, with Alex Wright, Mark Bray, Ryan Chandler, Matt Dinsmore, Regan Chandler, then Rodrigo Michelin, Nicholas Caranges, Zachary Yert, and Ryan Luna. All through the top 30, all classified on the leading lap. Just left Arinsberg and Elizondo to be scored as on the leading lap with your leader. One lap down, it's Morse, Winter, Hill, and Hilton, with Benatti, Dick, Felice, and Herrera all then a couple more laps down. They all finished, though, along with Morales, Walden, and Amaro, but then 14 laps down into the graveyard. McKenzie, Corolla, Rhines, Dawson, Lathan, Mulholland, Bammer, and then McEnany not getting to do the dance here today. Let's work our way over to some interviews. I don't see Evan Smogel standing by. We'll give him a couple of moments. Hope he joins us. Let's start with Alexander Abady talking with Joey Tebben.
Indeed, we will. Third place, Alex Abady. Welcome to the PRL for the first time this season. Talk us through 35 minutes of racing at Sebring. Seemed like you were kind of on your lonesome for the majority of it.
Oh, what a race. I still can't believe what happened. I got an off track because the car in front of me, he had a very bad turn, and that caused that I lost the position. But this turned out to be very good because when all those cars crashed in front of me, those were in front and they couldn't pass and I could pass. And I was like, oh my God, now I'm P3 or what? Go, bro, go. And then I just went.
And during the race, Arjuna was kind of bigging up your diversity of skills. He was talking about seeing you in the rallycross competition on iRacing. How did this stack up to everything else you've done?
Yeah, I started with iRacing about a year ago, and I became a 6K dirt road driver. I think I'm one of the best in rallycross, but I was very bad at road. So I said, no, you have to change that. Just focus a little bit on road to be an even better rallycross driver. Because all those guys that come to the rallycross, which are really good road drivers, they don't need a long time and they are super quick. And I thought, okay, man, this is what you have to learn trail braking, learn everything right, and then come back to rallycross and go to the World Championship.
Well, congratulations on a podium on debut, and we will see you next week for more road racing.
Thank you so much.
Alex Abady learning the road skills the best way possible. Luke Davis is here with us, P2 on the road. Luke, another difficult race for you as well in the BMW. It's kind of a big gap up to Smoger. What more did you need to catch him?
So this is my first time racing the BMW, actually. I've been in the Ferrari for the past few seasons that I've ran this, so still trying to get used to the car. I made some mistakes, especially at the hairpin, and he just was able to get by and out of my draft. He was really consistent and really good. So I think I just need some more time in the car, and hopefully some other tracks will suit me a little bit better.
Well, we've got 9 more weeks to go this season. A lot of crazy tracks, VIR, the Nordschleife. What do you think might suit the BMW the best? What are you most looking forward to?
I mean, that I don't know. Again, this is my first time really racing the BMW, but I do love the Nordschleife, the GP track, I believe it is. So I'm really looking forward to that. But overall, I don't have any complaints with the track schedule this year. It should be or season. It should be a good one.
I think we're going to enjoy it up here in the booth as well. Congrats on the podium in week 1, and we will see if you can go 2 for 2 next week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Luke Davis, P2 here, Arjuna, and it's time for even more Sebring. The Sebring never ends, and it's sprint racing time.
Before we talk about more Sebring, though, let's at least focus on this GT3 Fix Series for a couple more minutes because it's over, of course, to Imola next for these drivers. We've already mentioned very different racetrack. That, of course, live on March the 28th with the coverage beginning around 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Beginning once again with the GT3 Fix Series before we roll on over to the GT3 Sprint Series. Historic track, difficult to pass, and one where I think it's going to be just as difficult for drivers to survive what I think is going to be an equally difficult challenge compared to this opening round of the season.
Imola is always a tough place to bring a full field of GT3 cars around. How many times have we said that, no matter what you bring here on iRacing? But it's going to be a very, very exciting race, and we're not going to break out any chat GPT, but we will break out our best Italian.
Oh, are you actually going to embrace us, grace our presence with some Italian?
Google Translate's finest.
Okay. Well, you better get that pronunciation right. The expectations will be set high now. I hope you know that.
I don't even know how to say yes in Italian. I'm out of my mind here.
Well, we roll our way forward. One race in the books. One race still left to go in the doubleheader on Tuesday nights. We're ready to go for GT3 Fixed Racing here once again. Rather, GT3 Sprint Racing once again here at the Sebring International Raceway. Slightly longer race, same cars but open setups. The drivers have the opportunities to work some magic over the bumps of this Sebring International Raceway. Of course, plenty of storylines to talk about. New drivers joining the fray, drivers switching cars, of course, and of course the likes of Michael Terrafino joining the front from the GT3 Sprint Fix Series. But as we look at the schedule, it's the same as what the GT3 Fix drivers are going to have to contend with. And of course it means that we look at some of these same challenges. I'm going to highlight Circuit Jerez as maybe the most significant challenge, Joey. A track that none of these drivers will have raced before in iRacing. they'll have to get up to speed, and most importantly, they have to build setups.
Yeah, luckily it does come a little bit deeper in the season, so you do have a little bit of time to get up to speed with the track, learn it, start to build your setups. But as always, in an open setup series like this, the big teams, the teams with multiple drivers, multiple people who specifically work on setups, they tend to be the ones who rise to the top. And at places like Jerez, that's new, at a place like Belle Isle, where setups are very important, you're going to want to be one of those big teams.
Absolutely. I think the circuit, the schedule really showcases the diversity of tracks that GT3 cars can go racing at. I'm curious to see how it's all going to play out. It ends at Hockenheim, which is an interesting one, just given that it does tend to be a little bit more physical at times there than maybe one would hope for a championship showdown. I'll look from up above at what seems to be a little bit more of a cloudy Sebring International Raceway. We've scrolled the clocks effectively backwards in time momentarily, and we get ready to battle once again, with qualifying seeing 4 minutes still left on the board. In terms of expectations for this season, Joey, what do you have in store with some of the new drivers joining the series and some of the drivers getting their step up to the sprint?
Well, luckily, we do have a lot of the drivers who competed for the championship last season still in the fray. Defending champion Elliott White is back to defend both his championship in this series and his championship in the Xfinity Series tomorrow night. Abner Acosta is a very, very big name here after being so strong on the NASCAR side of things. He did the GT4 series last season to get his feet wet back into road course racing where he started, and now he's back to the place where he won many, many races before he started doing NASCAR competition in the PRL in the GT3 series. So he's going to be very competitive. Andrew Waring, your F3 champion from a couple of seasons ago, is here in the series with some of his Evolve Sim Sports buddies, and there's a whole host of other new drivers. Beckham Jasir, who won the GT4 season opener last night, he's here. He's kind of an unknown, and I could go on. There's 60 drivers registered. I could go through every single one of them if you give me an hour.
So GT4 champion stepping up. Remember, GT4 cars similar, I guess, in some ways, but very different philosophies to GT3. GT4 very much similar to road-going counterparts of the models that they are based on, of course. Again, one change for this season in this GT3 Sprint Series, once again, just to reiterate, no Pro and Am split anymore. It's one combined big class, and so we've got 56 GT3 cars getting ready to do battle here at Sebring. That is going to be intense. Let's take a look at how the qualifying standings are shaking up with 2 minutes or so left to run. It's Elliott White, only 8,000th clear of Beckham Jasir. Behind them, it's going to be Scott Kimbrough, Abner Acosta, and Martin Crisp at the top. 10 or so, split by just under half a second.
This is why this series is going to be extremely exciting this season. You got all the names we saw last season. Sean Dickinson won a couple of races last season. Boris Ovando won a race. Gonzalo Cortez was always fast, sometimes a little bit reckless. Martin Crisp still looking for his first real win in the PRL. He did win a race a couple of seasons ago, but that was only because Sean Campbell got disqualified for changing cars. So he wants his first win on the track. And Beckham Jasir and Scott Kimbrough, two new names to the series here. Juan Malagon as well in 11th. I always love to see this in the first rounds of the season, all the new names, seeing where they stack up.
It's a chance for some momentum again to be built, but it's also one of those events where if you get off on the wrong foot, you've got a long way back to work forward from. We've already seen just how treacherous the racing has been here at this Sebring International Raceway. The hairpin has been a major choke point at the start of the race. Elliott White in the Audi seems to be done with qualifying. He's left in pit lane with under 60 seconds left to go on the clock. Remember, drivers that get to the line before the time expires get to finish the lap that they're on, and so they'll extend on for probably 2 minutes beyond the initial flying of the checkered flag. Very different conditions. Overcast compared to partly cloudy before, but interestingly, it's ended up being a little bit warmer, Joey, for the drivers here today.
Just 1 degree Fahrenheit hotter, so it's a little bit of a difference, but it is overcast. I think we are getting deeper into the night, so it should get cooler and cooler and cooler over the course of the night. I don't think we'll end in the darkness. I think the sun still will be above the horizon. But yeah, things are only going to get cooler, and that's always a good thing when you're a driver.
So it's an Audi from a Lamborghini, from an Audi from a Lamborghini at the front, then 3 more Audis, a BMW, 2 more Audis, and then the first of the Porsches. You got a Ferrari with Andres Espinosa that runs down in, lost on my timing screen for a sec, down in 18th position, and of course Ethan Bass wants to make sure that there's at least one Ford GT in the field.
I'm very, very glad to see Ethan Bass here in that Ford. There were no Fords in the sprint field last season. There were just a couple in the fixed series. The last time we saw a Ford was when Sean Campbell won that race and then got disqualified afterwards. As Diego Morales in the Audi puts it up in the top 5 in the dying seconds.
That was when it was a mistaken joining from a Ford as well, if those that remember what happened with Sean Campbell joining in the wrong car. So, clock expires in qualifying. Drivers get the chance to finish the lap that they're on. Morales had jumped his way up to 5th. Andrew Hardman slides his way up to 17th position, but now one by one they'll come across the line.
Interesting to see Andrew Hardman going with the Evolve drivers this season, normally with Britannia iSports, but he found some teammates with Evolve. Beckham Jasir crosses the line. He's not going to be able to take pole, but he wants to go 2 for 2 after winning GT4 last night. He could very well be the person who breaks Elliott White down at the head of the field. Dave Menino back in the field this season. We didn't see him last season, but great to see a very experienced name back in the field. And Caleb Lehman here has a couple of AM wins. Did great in the pros last season as well. He's going to cross the line. Can he jump up to 37th? Yes, he can. Lots of improvement, but only to 32nd.
They do tend to string out a little bit more at the back, at least for the time being. Abner Acosta does not improve on his final attempt, and he's going to finish up in qualifying. And J.R. Williams finds improvement up to 16th, so he's going to be happy with that one. And now just one more car we wait for. It's a Mercedes of Hernan Gonzalez, who's through the final corner and tentatively onto the power. Sweeps his way through. Don't think that time is correct. We'll see it update as it comes across the line. Apparently he was up to date. Hernan Gonzalez just gets a bit more practice in before he wraps us up for qualifying.
Can never hurt. Can never hurt to get a couple of extra laps of practice, but once we go through the grid here, you're going to see a lot of names again who are deeper than we normally expect to see them. Ted Lowendick is deep in the field. Caven Norris, who's back, is deep in the field. Michael Tarafino, your GT3 fixed champion, moves up to the Pro Series. 33rd on the grid. He's not going to be too happy with that.
Still in the BMW as well, so the Team Beef car hopefully does not change its colors as we get ready to go. Qualifying done and dusted. It's Elliott White that strikes first. Beckham Jasir going to be lining up behind, but we saw how hectic and crazy the start was just a few moments ago for the drivers in that GT3 fixed series. Not expecting too much different for the drivers in this GT3 Sprint Series. Of course, they've got the ability to tune their cars to get it dialed in for the feeling that they need over these bumps on the Sebring International Raceway. Who has found the most as we get ready to battle once again, this time for a slightly longer 40-minute race, but once again, expecting all drivers to head down onto pit lane just because, like Joey said, physics is a reality. You can only get so far on the amount of fuel that these cars are restricted to. Let's run you down through the starting grid for round number 1 of the season. It's going to be Elliott White that leads us to the green with Beckham Jasir alongside. Scott Kimbrough and then Abner Acosta all on row 2 with Diego Morales and Martin Chris behind them. It's going to be Andrew Waring and Gonzalo Cortez on row 4 with Boris Ovando in the Precision Racing esports colors inside of Sean Dickinson in the Sim City Racing Machine. Juan Malagon in the very purple number 6 machine. Inside of Devin Horvath for the number 32 Audi. Adam Brockway, Nane Tavares in the 911 Lamborghini. Starts in 14th with Fernando Jaquez and J.R. Williams 15th and 16th. It's going to be Peter Nodwell and then Andrew Hardman 17th and 18th positions with Ron Puchtel and Alex Popoff through the top 20. Espinoza and Bergstrom line up on row 11 with Mendonca and Bonilla 23rd and 24th and 9/10 of a second, splitting the front 12 rows or so with Lowendick and Rodriguez 25th and 26th. And where is Joey Tebben? Apparently on Lowendick's car. Caven Norris and Ethan Bass 27th and 28th, and with the best of the Fords and the only Fords lining up on the outside of row 14. Hernan Gonzalez, Tommy Brissone 29th and 30th. Francis Romero, Caleb Lehman line up 31st and 32nd, with Michael Terrafino making the step up from fixed to sprint. 33rd, his first outing in qualifying. Menino, Nixon, and then Majumdar through the top 36, the front 13 or so rows. ZT, Desjardins, Kwok Nin, and then Jared Farrell through the first 20 rows. McLaughlin also has Joey Tebben on his car. We'll see how many tenths that adds with Joshua Spears for company. Pabayano.
Negative tenths.
Don't say that. You want more people with your face on their cars. Pabayano, Fonseca, Mannion, Costello, Nikos Sandikis, and then Joey Haynes through the 48 cars at the front, and then still more to come. Thurman, Arvello, McCannis, Scalani, Sharp, O'Connor, and then Waters and Curran rolling off at the very back. Got a couple of drivers sharing their beautiful faces for us. One of them in virtual reality, which always gives us that interesting perspective of where Kwok Nin is looking as he battles out on track. You got Nick McLaughlin as well as Caven Norris. Always great to see the faces.
Good to see Caven Norris back.
Wait, sorry. Can we disturb Nick McLaughlin?
I think we can for a second. Let's drag him up here where we can see the zooms here. Well, we got this whole pace lap. Nick McLaughlin, yep, I can tell he hears me now. Why have you put my face on the side of your car? And I think it's already given you bad luck, as Ted Lowendick just got kicked off the grid because of internet issues.
Gentlemen, good to be here. We are the Joey Tebben official fan club. That's why your face is on my car.
Okay, good. Okay, am I getting paid for this?
I don't know. We'll see how well we do.
If you get any money in the mail, it's got to come to me. I think that's an FCC rule.
If you can commentate or curse the cars ahead of me, we'll figure something out.
I'll think about what I can do here. That might be payola. That might be illegal. I don't know.
First things first, we need to get Teddy back in here, as internet's giving him some guff, it seems.
Giving him some guff. That's a good word. But he's going to be forced to start from pit lane, I assume. Hopefully that Ohio internet works, but you can never trust that. So you're starting deeper in the field than you'd like, Nick. What do you think the upper limit is? What are the goals on lap 1 as well? How are you going to survive?
Just really cautious. Unfortunately, Sebring's never been a track I've really excelled at. Sorry, this guy's talking there. Yeah, it's just I can't find the time here, so we're going to stay cautious and pick up some freebies and work our way up slowly. If I can finish in the top half of the field, I'd be pretty happy with that.
All right, in a 50-car field, that's just a top 25, so we wish you good luck. We'll let you get back to business and warming up those tires, and maybe we'll talk to you again in 40 minutes' time.
Cheers, fellas. Have a good one.
Maybe less than 40 minutes' time if he's going to let us disturb him.
That is very, very true. We might drag him back up in here again.
I mean, if you're going to open yourself to us talking to you, you better know what you're signing up for. White, Jasir front row, Kimbrough Acosta behind. New season, blank slate, new drivers, and of course some coming in from a previous season, Joey, where maybe they want a bit more. It all starts here at Sebring. Who comes out on top? Who, in your opinion, will come out with the victory?
Impossible question. I'm thinking about last race. I'm thinking about the pole sitter just pulling away from the rest of the drama and running away. It's going to be more difficult for Elliott White because the field does seem to be a little bit more equal on pace with him than everybody was with Smoger in the previous race, but you got to go with Elliott White. You got to go with the champ. When he's up front, it is very, very hard to displace him unless you make contact with him or he gets the flu like last season.
It was, what, 0.08 of a second, the margin in qualifying, so it is uber close at the front, ready to rumble for another season of Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series action kicking off here at the bumpy Sebring International Raceway, a road that winds to Hockenheim on May the 23rd to bring 2023 Season 2 to a close. It's White and Jasir on the front row with the green flag in hand and now waving in the air as we rumble for another season. White and Jasir clear at the front momentarily, but Acosta trying to challenge into turn number 1, looking the long way around, going to have to tuck back into line as they fly their way on through into the first heavy braking zone of the lap. Single file for the top 7 or so, but side by side behind, and hopefully nobody tripping over one another as they all dance their way through and onto the power and sweeping towards the hairpin.
Look, about 8 cars back in line in the purple Porsche People Eater as Andrew Waring gets in the wall off of the corner. Adam Brockway was moving his way forward, and Andrew Waring has thrown it off the road. One of the unit Sim Sports drivers in trouble off of turn 5 as well. A less clean start than in race 1, and we're not even to the hairpin yet, but here we are. Look for the checkups at the back of the field, and there's a dive into the hairpin.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was, but apparently we've gotten through there safely. I love this aerial drone sort of a shot from up above as there's another send from one of those unit SimSport cars down the inside. Safely through, at least for the time being. I think that was Caven Norris getting physical on the opening lap. One car already back in pit lane as Sean McCannis in the 222 finds his way with some terminal damage onto the back of a truck and back to pit lane. But White and Jasir looking to try and break away, with Acosta starting to feel the pressure from behind after he got past Kimbrough at the start of the race.
Abner already off to a flying start compared to last season in the GT4s. He'd spent so much time on the NASCAR side, only doing 1 or 2 road course races a season. As off in the background, I believe that's Alec Bergstrom having a little bit of trouble. One of the Porsches off the road as well. Indigène de Bian, big trouble, but there's lots of runoff, lots of places to get back in line, and I think he has right behind Joey Haynes.
It was Sandiakis who had his little issue, but now behind, a little bit more of a checkup for Pucktel, Benila, Hardman, as they all now find their way 3 abreast into Sunset Bend on the opening lap of the race. It is going to be White from Jasir at the front as Pucktel decides he wants no part of it, sees Rodriguez and Benila scooting their way on over the bumps, with Rodriguez in front, Benila now cutting back underneath him and using that momentum to sweep his way on through. Beautifully executed by Keith Benila to grab 20th spot at the end of lap number 1, though. Nick McLaughlin coming down into pit lane. A handful of cars with issues on the opening lap.
Oh dear, it's less than I think on lap 1 in the last race, even with all the drama, although it may be more. I haven't counted entirely. Morales is in a little bit of trouble. Here's Terrafino, your defending GT3 Fix champion, up here in the big leagues of sorts in GT3 Pro. Right ahead of Ryan Pucktel, I believe, so holding himself off pretty well as Michael Pabiano, 2nd place in GT3 Fixed, not having the same fortunes.
It's, again, rather hectic, rather chaotic, and with 56 cars, maybe this was to be expected. But Morales, Dickinson, Malagon, Ovando, all mixed up in this squabble for 6th position as they get onto the brakes in towards Cunningham Corner. The 22 of Morales on the inside of Dickinson's 64 machine, but the SimCity Racing car holds on for the time being as they single file in towards Tower Corner, with the Audi battle tucked up behind Ovando's BMW, who's got a little bit of a margin behind for the time being. 1.1 seconds or so the margin that Jasir and White have been able to build to the peloton, led by Abner Acosta behind, as they build onto the back straightaway once more. That Lamborghini settles into the task at hand and closing to those in front.
Is that the first time we've had a peloton on a PRL broadcast? I think it might be.
I use it a lot, so maybe not. Sean Dickinson.
Diego Morales is trying to break away from the peloton, though. Look at that for a move down the back straight.
Dickinson ran wide, I think, out of Jean Dibion and then Le Mans, and now has compromised his exit speed. Malagon passed as well as they get in towards the line. You can use all of the track on exit, but you've got to make sure you cut back to the right a bit earlier than I think some sometimes end up doing. 2 laps now in the books, and I think somewhat calming down. Overall, I call that a little bit of a cleaner start than what we saw with the GT3 Fix Series.
Maybe. And those of you who are watching the ticker there, you can see everybody who was involved. Casey Waters, Nick McLaughlin, Andrew Waring is completely out. Sean McGuinness was involved. Ted Lowendick did make the grid just in the nick of time, so he is there. He did have to start from pit lane, though, and I believe Majumdar was also in a little bit of trouble on lap 1 as well. Brian Curran might be getting involved as well, but the battle does not stop here. At the end of the top 10, Sean Dickinson trying to break his way a little bit forward. He won multiple races last season. He's fighting with Juan Malagon for 9th, though.
Yeah, that Porsche able to chop the nose off of that SimCity Racing 64. Now can Horvath have a look of his own in towards Tower? No changes, at least for the time being, into Cunningham, excuse me. A couple more cars with issues on this lap. But Dickinson able to hold that momentum on the inside line to frustrate Brockway and Horvath, and then behind them a spin for the 911 of Tavares.
Back it up, back it up. He gets it out of the way. but he can't get that much out of the way. I think he may have got a little bit of help from the SRT Porsche there. They may have both been involved there. Have to wait until the old replay machine gets fired up, but it is still very, very close quarters. Even more trouble as the 34 Josh Spears goes around. It was a clean lap 1 for the most part, but there's still 56 cars in the field. Everybody's got to navigate through here somewhere as we do get a look at what happened on lap 1. It's a little bit of a parking lot coming through turn 7.
It's a little bit of a slideshow as well, so we do apologize for that, but there's only so much we can do with a field this big. All just kind of concertinaing up. At the very least, they didn't all trip over one another in the same way that we saw earlier with the fixed series, where they all kind of just bumping front to back. This time actually cars going around, couple actually scootering off into the grass. It was Andrew Waring that I think you called out, Joey. Gets a bit of a shover after that as well, and hard into the tire wall.
I wonder if there was actually any contact there, or if that was just Waring swerving to the left to try and avoid and then catching himself off guard, but I think there was actually a little bit of contact there that led to that. A little bit of 3 wide here deeper in the field. 3 wide never works out well at Sebring. And poor old Andrew Waring thought he was going to get away with that with some heavy damage, and he got away with it with even heavier damage as more pile in.
I think that shot tells the story. Keep cycling. Keep cycling
nice
through this. Yeah, love it.
I think that's Andrew Sharp making his way through, so well done to him, but poor old Waring, he thought it was all done, and then the 9 of E.J. Nixon, I believe, comes in there and makes his life even worse.
And I think that was Sean...
McInnes?
Yeah, Sean McInnes who got the worst.
There's too many Seans in this series. There's too many Seans.
There's also 56 cars on the timing screen.
And also the 9 is Casey Waters. We're still getting used to some of the new numbers with some new people this season.
Tony Costello has an issue. Abner Costa's been able to close back up to these front 3 and has not really brought Kimbrough Crisp with him. You can see the margin behind as they head onto the back straightaway, and then a bit more of separation starting to build one by one, lap by lap, 10th by 10th. The expectations for the season being laid out early doors. Mendonca with a slight technical issue. He's going to be hoping that one's going to be clearing up in that fight for 23rd position, as Sean Dickinson, I think now with a slowdown penalty, continues to slide his way backwards.
Poor old Sean Dickinson. Have to imagine he just threw it off the road a little bit, or potentially cut the track just a little bit too much on one of those curbs. I think he has finally served it, but he's trying to get the momentum back and hold off Alex Popoff Jr. here. But to the outside, here comes Alex, one of the youngest drivers in the series, joining the PRL this season. He's trying to go around the outside of the guy who finished 2nd in the championship last season, but the SimCity Racing Audi's going to hold him off for the moment.
Around the outside, not working there. Does it work with Diego Morales and Juan Malagon? Malagon up the inside, able to grab 8th position from the number 22 machine, who now has to contend with Adam Brockway from behind. Ominous cloud cover from up above. You can see the sunset peeking out where it can. Yellow highlights streaking through that cloud cover. Who's going to be a highlight here? With that margin now between 3rd and 4th position growing up above 2 full seconds. It's 3 cars running away at the front. Audi and Lamborghini looking strong.
Juan Malagon here leading this train. He's one of the more interesting drivers in the field. We've seen an influx of drivers from the Dominican Republic. There's 2 of them here in the series this season. I always say the PRL is an international league, and it's even more international here, as we've got drivers from the International Club in the Caribbean. There's a look at one of our other spins with one of the Audis there. Coming off the corner. I think it's just a little bit of a clip of the grass. Yep, and around goes the Audi.
That was Bergstrom. Helps if I don't mute myself. That BMW went for a wild, wild ride.
It did indeed. Majumdar. That was a good save, though. Let's take a look at it from the helicopter view here.
Sadakis, I believe, is the way that we meant to say.
Sonadakis there.
There we go.
But he's in the same car as Majumdar. So, again, getting used to these Vaporworks Sim Sports liveries. It's never helpful when teams look exactly identical with exactly the same liveries, but Sonadakis did get off there with just a little bit of damage, a little bit of hurt feelings.
That reminds me, SimCity Racing promised us some stuff, as that's what happened to Michael Pabiano. Where's all our colourful GT3 cars?
That's true. They look exactly the same. There's Martin Crisp. How am I supposed to differentiate that?
There's some Canadian flags, I guess, on the wing end plates. That does help, as Brockway now going to be the next to get past a spinning Diego Morales, who's going to slide backwards and fortunately hang on to his brakes to avoid running back up into the racing line. But now Morales slides out of the top 20.
That was a good little save at the end of it all. He's kind of ruining it, trying to get back out on track there. Couldn't quite get it around there in one fell swoop. But yeah, Martin Crisp does have those Canadian flags. I think Sean Dickinson will have the American flags. So that's helpful. They're not both Canadian.
I guess.
See here.
Well, Audi
yes,
and Lamborghini does help as well. Wait, no, they're both Audis.
Yeah, they're both Audis this season, but the flags do help. It's like A1GP out here.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but no. I mean, imagine if that camera angle doesn't really help us too much. I can't tell. Like right now, yes, must struggle.
Let's give me a little bit of blue there, but ahead of Sean Dickinson is two very interesting drivers who I do want to mention. Fernando Jaquez has been with us in GT4 series for a couple of seasons now. Has had some bad luck. Hasn't quite got the results he wanted, but now that he's in the GT3s, maybe he's a little bit more comfortable here because he's been having a great run so far, just in the precipice in the top 10. And that driver who he's behind, Devin Horvath, we haven't seen him for a couple of seasons either, but you know who won the last time the PRL ran Sebring in the GT3 series? Devin Horvath.
There we go, a bit of history. Let's go back and take a look at some history of this race, and this is the 911 Lamborghini, which is never going to sound right, going around. Mainly because of a checkup and then got tagged from behind. Good wreck avoidance there from J.R. Williams, who scampers on through.
He's not going to have to report himself there to the stewards, but Tavares just, I think it's a little bit too late in the brakes. Jaquez is very, very lucky he didn't get involved there, and then I think that was Popoff on the scene who used the scoop of the Lamborghini as a little bit of help there to keep that spin going. Boris Ovondo's in a little bit of trouble off of turn 1. Recovers right ahead of Gonzalo Cortez, though.
Uh-oh. Commentator's curse. Devin Horvath has just run wide at turn 1. Blame Joey Tebbin.
Well, you know, I should say a couple of... my goodness, Andres Espinosa forgets where the brakes are into turn 3 there, but recovers. He's probably going to get a slowdown for that lawnmower moment, though.
Would not be shocked, to say the very least. What happened then through Tower Corner once again between Caven Norris and I think it was Josh Spears, slowly working our way through everything that happened at the start. This Audi leans on the BMW, but it's the Audi that comes off the worst there.
And Caven Norris coming back after a season off, he, I think, took a break because he was having so much bad luck because people just kept running into him. Unfortunately, it's happened again. I think he's gotten away with it. You see him, he was okay. He parks the bus a little bit, and I think he has brought it down pit lane, so evidently he got some damage somewhere else.
Got to be a bit careful, even though these GT3 machines obviously have substantial body work. You definitely don't want to take too much damage onto any part of the car. 3/10 at the front. Costa's made a mistake and lost the top 2 once again. GT4 again, not the most similar to a GT3 machine, and so Acosta, who spent the GT4 season at the start of the year just building back up, trying to get back and familiar with what is a very different machine to get the most out of in this Lamborghini Huracan.
Yeah, it's just been so many seasons since Abner was a full-time road course driver. He spent so much time dominating the NASCAR series, winning so many races there. He won 44 races, I think, total over the course of that. Has got huge trouble at turn 3 there with one of the Evolve Sim Sport drivers, and then a whole host of things that happen just when there's one incident at Sebring. Everything stacks up behind. By process of elimination, I have to imagine this is Joey Haynes because Andrew Waring's out of the race, and then Evolve Sim Sport, Unit Sim Sport piles in. Everybody gets a bite out of that.
Everyone gets a little bit of it. Tony Costello, the one that I think got the worst of it, though, and he headed back down towards the pit lane. Michael Pabiano, by the way, has had another off, so season not starting out great for him. As now Marc-Andre Deschardins is, well, that's an alternative line through turn number 1.
Well, if my lack of knowledge of French tells me anything, Desjardins means of the garden, so, I mean, I guess it's kind of expected that he'd be mowing a little bit of grass.
It's a send and a half. Bergstrom and Curran side by side, and Bergstrom on his recovery drive up into now 36th position as Boris Ovando gets in front of Martin Crisp up into the top 5.
I think Boris might have been one of those drivers who was a little bit lower in qualifying than he really should be. He may have gotten held up over the course of the 20 minutes because he has just been nuclear-powered here, moving his way forward, making passes. There's a loop around deeper in the field. He was almost able to save that. Unfortunately, there's just that little inconvenient wall there that comes out and tags the rear end of the Audi.
That was Peter Nodewell, and I think that's basically everything that we have seen for the most part so far. And of course, having said that, I'm sure there's going to be more that comes on through. I don't think we saw what happened to Diego Morales, so quick look at that one, Joey, as well. This was turn 1, Audi on Audi, but it's just so hard on the inside. It's so bumpy. You're always tempted to push out wide, and he had that bit of contact, and the Audi known for being a bit twitchy and loose, and around it went.
Yes, that little bit of contact with Adam Brockway really set it off on the spin there, and at that point there was no saving it. But basically he did save it, just unfortunately it was off the track entirely. I think basically in the same part of the pack as that happened, Fernando Jaquez and Sean Dickinson have tripped over each other just a little bit. They didn't crash, they didn't hit each other, but they have slowed each other down, so I think they've had a little bit of an argument through sunset.
You can see the positions gained inside of the top 16, +8 for Popov, +7 for Espinosa. As Michael Pabiano's struggles continue, he has another issue out on track in the Audi. Sebring really not being a welcome start to his campaign. Let's ride with Kwok Nin, not just on board, but take a look at where he's looking as well. You can just see him glancing off to the right as he sweeps around the gentle right-hand bend in towards the hairpin. Of course, riding now in 27th position, has gained 12 spots so far in this race.
That tends to be the Kwok Nin way. He loves to stay out of trouble. He's not usually a driver who we see getting involved in anything. And he's living like Jamiroquai in virtual insanity right now after being the second place driver in the AM Championship last season. He's got to fight with everybody else in a no Pro-Am split season this season. So unluckily for him, about 25th is going to be the best he's going to hope for in this race, maybe 20th, but you know, he'll still be thinking about that. If there is a Pro-Am split next season, he definitely will come back with the ability to fight for the championship.
Virtual Insanity, one of the, if not, I can't say it is the greatest music video of all time, but it is definitely top 5.
Dancing, walking, rearranging furniture.
Have you seen the making of?
I haven't. I think I've like read a comment about it, but I haven't seen the making of it.
It's so
maybe
cool.
It's just
clever.
Less than 22 minutes? Is it less than 22 minutes long?
I think I saw a short version which was like 5 minutes long, so yeah.
All right, I'm going to go watch that. You can be on your own for 5 minutes. I'm going.
It's amazing. What is the best music video of all time? OK Goes, Here It Goes Again is, I think, the best. I think that's got to be the best.
I think the best would actually be OK Goes, This Too Shall Pass with the Rube Goldberg machine.
I just love the treadmills. I don't know what it is about them.
I mean, I don't love them in most scenarios, but when we're dancing on them,
I try and avoid them as much as possible.
Yeah.
Battle for 9th sees Brockway, Dickinson, Popov, Jaquez, and Horvath. Popov just got in front of Jaquez, but that orange Lamborghini is looking like it might go back on the offense.
Here comes Fernando. He's going to take a peek to the inside. No, I think he knows that would be just a little bit too late. He's going to stay back in line here. Popov has been another one of those drivers who was definitely lower in qualifying than he should have been. He's been making moves nonstop. Popov is absolutely popping off, and the next driver on his list is old Sean Dickinson, who he tried to pass once before, and he's going to get another shot at him.
So we're, 45 seconds away from the halfway mark of this race, which is also, I guess, going to mean that we start thinking about heading closer and closer into the fuel strategy. Miguel Fonseca got disconnected. I did note that, unfortunately, suboptimal for him. Has been a coming together of a couple of machines out on track, I guess, or maybe it's just coincidental that both Hernan Gonzalez and Sean McInnes have headed back to pit lane at the same time. That's McInnes going around, and I get the feeling that's Gonzalez that comes on the scene of the incident.
Yes, that was Gonzalez. Unfortunately, I think that was a wreck for last, as McInnes just goes around in the zone. We ride on board with Gonzalez here. He might have had time to react to that. He might have been able to swerve to the left a little bit earlier than that, but unfortunate stuff for Hernan Gonzalez. He'll be back next week, and hopefully Sean McInnes won't be in front of him.
Yes. I'm not sure if Gonzalez was left on the lead lap. He may still have been. I'm not sure. Terrafino with an early trip down to pit lane, along with a handful of others who have boxed early. Now, if you take a look at the track map, it's busy, but there's pockets of clean air. So I do wonder if we are going to see that potential for drivers to come and cycle on in. Again, 56 started, and we're down to what, about 46 of them still left out there and running, as Brett Thurman, well, stationary for the time being.
I think some of the drivers were definitely watching the fixed race instead of practicing, for better or for worse. So they definitely know that the strategy for Eric Kalaga did work to get him a couple of extra positions and into the top 5. So coming in early, if you can find a pocket, does work, as there is Brett Thurman. Go in drift mode through Sunset. It was a good save. He just couldn't get on the throttle as soon as he wanted to because there were cars coming, but that was a solid drift.
We had Ted Lowe we had Nick McLaughlin, Kwoknin, and Caven Norris all sharing with us webcams. Unfortunately, that seems to be a bad omen because only Kwoknin still out there and running, at least decently. Nick McLaughlin 4 laps down in the 49th position. Caven Norris seems to be back in pit lane, scored as 1 lap down for the time being. Front of the field, halfway through the race, Elliott White and Beckham Yassir have been basically lockstep and with nothing basically to separate them. Abner Acosta at one point had joined the fray but has slipped on back once again, maybe struggling slightly with tyre management even in these cooler track conditions under this orange Sebring sunset. White in the Audi has led every single lap, with Yassir saving potentially some fuel sitting in behind. The question will be, in terms of fuel mileage, what can that Lamborghini do to try and spring a surprise in terms of a slightly shorter pit stop?
Yeah, this is one of those kind of traditional PRL GT3 races where you see a driver who's very clearly on pace with the leader, a driver who can very clearly fight for the win. He could go for a dive whenever he wanted to. He could go for the lead, but he says, you know what, I'm going to ride behind here for the whole first stanza of the race, save as much fuel as possible, make position in the pits, and then after the pit cycle kicks off, that's when everything can go crazy. That's when I can start actually making moves.
Speaking of which, pit cycle seems to be kicking off. And again, does seem like it's a little bit earlier than what I think we've become accustomed to here, Joey.
Yeah, it's 3 minutes earlier than... Well, actually, no, it's not 3 minutes earlier than the previous race because we got 5 minutes of additional race time. So there's some sort of weird math here, just past halfway. But Dickinson wins the race off pit road. Jaquez gets off as well. No real changes other than Jaquez jumping Brockway there.
Yeah, he had a much shorter stop. Brockway 16 seconds stationary, 14.3 for Jaquez. Shortest of them all so far has been J.R. Williams with a 13.7 second pit stop. And of course, the further into this race you go, the less fuel you really need to be worried about adding to your car, hypothetically. We'll see if our leaders come on in this time by with just 18 cars yet to transit down this pit lane. Of course, don't forget that we're using what is the traditional pit lane. If you watch Super Sebring rather this weekend, on Saturday you saw the regular pit lane. On Friday, with the World Endurance Championship, they actually had their pit lane that started off before. It's on the right-hand side, so your left-hand side, as you're watching now, of this back straightaway, on the Almond straightaway. Where the fire engine is, that's basically pit road entry. Trundles all the way down into Sunset Bend and then merges just before, just to make sure that it doesn't spit drivers into a very high-speed corner. Maybe unexpected, but here we come. The rest of the field likely heading towards the pit lane. White, Yassir, and Acosta lead the mob down.
And here we go. The hard end of the fuel tank has arrived, I think. I don't think anybody has an extra lap of fuel in here. And now, has all of Beckham Yassir's saving actually done him any good? He could have gone for the lead so many times, but he elected to stay behind, save a little bit of fuel to try and jump Elliott White in the pits here. It's about 15, 16 seconds for just about everybody, so that's the expected time in the box. Everybody gets stopped with little to no trouble, although there's a little bit of bobble for Martin Crisp, and Elliott White easily wins the race off pit road.
Beckham Yassir a full second slower as well, so not sure exactly how that all cycled out. Behind them, Acosta, Ovando, Kimbrough, who's going to cycle behind Cortez, and then Crisp, like you mentioned, struggled to get into his box and reflected in the pit stop time. A pit lane time, rather, significantly longer by a couple of seconds. Pucktel able to extend 1 lap longer than the rest, but with 15 minutes left to go, it is Elliott White that still leads from Beckham Yassir, but now with a margin that's grown to over a second momentarily. Maybe a little bit more fuel on Beckham Yassir's car as well. It's an Audi versus Lamborghini fight at the front.
And remember, another thing that came with the most recent iRacing update was the auto fuel feature. Before that, you either had to calculate it yourself or hope that a crew chief or an automated crew chief system, whatever app you choose to use, was doing it for you. But now you can do that within the iRacing session, and some drivers who do normally use an app like Crew Chief that calculates their fuel for them, they've been experiencing some troubles because they've forgotten to uncheck the iRacing auto fuel setting, so the Crew Chief couldn't actually do the work. iRacing did the work instead, and their calculations were a little bit wrong. So that may be some of the reason behind some of the alternate times on pit lane.
Kevin Norris says he got disqualified from this race. Not sure exactly what.
Oh no!
I did promise this, by the way. 14 minutes left to go through a pit stop cycle. Yeah, apart from Ryan Pucktel. ChatGPT jokes about GT3 race cars at Sebring. Why did the GT3 car cross the road at Sebring? To get to the other side of the bumpy track.
5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. It was better than I thought.
Why did the GT3 driver bring a pillow to Sebring?
Because the race was boring or something?
To cushion the blows from all those bumps.
Okay, that's not terrible.
Okay, to be fair, there's some that are actually not bad this time by. What do you call a GT3 car that can't handle Sebring's bumpy surface?
Ted Lowendick's car.
That's not a bad one, actually. I wish we could drag him up here just to point that one out as Pucktel onto pit lane. No, shaken, not stirred.
No.
Not so good. This one is the worst one of them all, out of the 10 that are generated. What's the difference between a GT3 car at Sebring and a roller coaster?
One's fun.
One is an amusement park ride, and the other is a racetrack with lots of ups and downs, which is factually incorrect.
Yeah, this is basically as level as you can get. They don't tend to like elevation change on military bases with runways. That's not usually welcomed.
Yeah, no, that one I think is the worst one. Although maybe the next worst one is, why did the GT3 car refuse to race at Sebring? Because it wanted to avoid all those speed bumps. Yes, no, that is awful.
I don't think our jobs are in any danger.
Have you heard the synthesized commentary where they're like...
Yes. Somebody did that before all this stuff kicked off. There's somebody who went through one of the SpongeBob synthesized voice, and they plugged in a Rick Allen call of a NASCAR finish, and that was good.
Oh no, Ethan Bass has paid the price for being in a Ford GT. Sorry, I had to throw that one in there as he spins himself around. Bass was running up in the 19th or so position, fighting with Mendonca. If you put 2 and 2 together, maybe just overly optimistically going for a move and having to use the access road.
Let's see here. Let's see if your theories are correct. Mendonca in the BMW, Bass behind. Bass does get too late in the brakes, and unfortunately, that was Joey Haynes, I believe, who was the unfortunate bystander there, but Haynes was just fine. The Audi proving that it's rock solid, and the old pendulum of the Ford goes around, and Ethan Bass gets to take the old layout of Sebring instead.
I don't think that was Joey Haynes, because he's been on pit lane for a while, so that would have been Andrew Hardman or someone, I guess.
Okay, all the Evolve Sim... It's been Devolve Sim Sports again. True. All of them have been involved in incidents, so it's hard to remember.
Just a reminder that make your cars look different, and commentators will like you more.
Maybe that is possible. Andrew Waring, usually we could tell where he was in F3 because he tended to be the leader of the pack, but here everybody's just been dead even.
Yeah. The other way to buy the affection of commentators, do you know what it is, Joey?
To make yourself available for live in-race interviews and also to wreck at sunset?
Yeah, Ford not working. That's a broken Ford now as well.
Bass backwards.
That's a good one. That's not getting sold anytime soon. That's going to need a big old chunk of work. No, the other way that you can buy commentators' affection is by giving us T-shirts. Me and Lewis McClay did a rather fun thing during BMW M Sim Cup. We started wearing one team's T-shirt. The next time we were on camera, we wore another team's T-shirt. And the final time we were on camera, we had a different T-shirt on. And of course, we had all different shirts between the two of us, so 6 different teams got their sponsors on the broadcast for a second.
Well, are you listening, people? Precision Racing Esports. I could use a PRL T-shirt. Yeah. Get us one of them. YS Motorsports, Unit Sim Sports, Evolve Sim Sports. There's so many opportunities. Get those T-shirts ready. Redbubble's pretty cheap.
I'm wearing my Arnage competition T-shirt right now, as a matter of fact. I got a care package from Porsche and iRacing. Life's good. Life's not so good in the camp of Ethan Bass because, well, back asswards into the tire bundle.
Poor old Ethan. I mean, getting yourself in the Ford is one way to get yourself easy TV time here on RaceSpot, but you got to make sure to use that TV time for good, Ethan.
Front of the field, still 2 cars. Beckham Jasir has brought that gap down to within touching distance, striking distance of Elliott White. They come across the line with 9.5+ minutes, or just under 9.5 minutes to go, which should mean that we got 5 laps left to run.
This race has definitely flown by, and things are about to get exciting here up front. Jasir has brought the gap down as we ride on board with him in the virtual world with those purple gloves. It's like I'm watching Barney battling with Elliott White right now, but it's very, very quick. He's brought the gap down. He just needs to get that little bit closer, which he was able to do in the initial stint of the race, but Elliott White was potentially saving a little bit of fuel. Now they're both at 100%. They're both pushing all out.
2 very similar cars. Now, they're not identical cars, to be clear, but the Lamborghini and the Audi do share a decent amount between the 2 of them, as Keith Bonilla outside of turn 3, definitely not where you want to be stranded, and now trying to find a spot to spin around and spool back out onto track.
I think he's found a gap. There goes some of the Unit Sim Sport drivers. There we go. Keith Bonilla finally back out on track, right ahead of Diego Morales, I believe. A fairly anonymous spin there as Beckham Jasir's taking the lead.
He has taken the lead. You can see that at the bottom. Maybe a mistake through Tower Corner. Let's just quickly see how it came unstuck for Keith Bonilla, and now, with a mistake by himself, we'll see how Jasir got on through in the Lamborghini. Was that a slowdown for White, or is that just him playing the gamesmanship?
That was just a mistake through Tower Corner there. It's got a little bit wide. It's rare to see a mistake from Elliott White, but it finally came with the pressure from Jasir. That was the only thing he needed. He was keeping him such close company that one mistake is all he needed to take the lead.
So now you got to be careful if you're these 2 machines. Acosta's only 4 seconds back. He's kept himself just within range that if these 2 start to tussle, that he'll be brought into the fight. Ovando lurks as well over the shoulder of Acosta. Still 2 cars very much in contention, but 4 cars keeping their hopes alive into the closing 4 laps here at Sebring, with Beckham Jasir leading at the line for the very first time.
How many times have we seen in the PRL? We've had a 2-car breakaway, an excellent battle between the front 2, and they've ended up tripping over each other. And there was a shock win from 3rd. I don't know if that's going to happen this time, but it's two very different levels of experience in the PRL. Elliott White, multiple wins, defending champion. Beckham Jasir, great driver in his own right. 4,700 iRating, clearly very skilled in these cars. But Elliott White doesn't know how to race Beckham Jasir. He hasn't been racing with him for multiple seasons. He might not know what to expect.
That is one thing as well. The more that you race with someone, the more familiar you are with their tendencies, how close you can run through certain corners. One thing that White will be doing now that he's tucked up behind is just evaluating Jasir that little bit more. You can kind of do that when you're the lead car, but Jasir's got clean air. He's not got the checkup that is Elliott White now, so he's able to run his lines, run to his markers. White's going to be sizing him up and trying to figure out where he can look for the lunge. Of course, the obvious opportunities are at the end of the Elmond Straight into Sunset Bend, maybe into turn 1 as well. But let's not kid ourselves about here, Joey. Every corner at Le Mans is a passing, rather, every corner at Sebring, including Le Mans, is a passing opportunity.
It is, and Elliott White needs to make sure he's maximizing the exits of every corner, and unfortunately, he has not really been doing so in the second sector of the track. That's where he's losing all of his time. Through Tower, where he made a mistake earlier, not strong through there. Through the final corner, on to the back straight, he's not been strong through there. And off of Sunset, he's basically dead even with Beckham Jasir. He needs to start finding time on these exits, or else it's just going to be a little bit of a bubble stuck between the 2 of them for the rest of the race.
Draft slightly reduced, of course, in this most recent iRacing update, and it's harder to use that hole in the air to stay close. You've got to do it with the driving, and at least for the time being, Jasir doing just enough. J.R. Williams having a few technical issues. He'll be hoping they're of the temporary variety, but now outside of the top 20, at least in terms of being scored, and that might be an unfortunate end to round number 1 for J.R. Williams. Michael Pabayano continues to have a horrid round number 1.
This has not been the best debut in the GT3 Sprint Series, unfortunately for him, but I'm happy he's still trying to make it to the finish. He's crashed multiple times, and he's still trying to finish the race. He's still trying to get every single lap on the board here, and that is a respectable thing to do. As right ahead of him as well, I think Ted Lowendick, who is having a great recovery drive of his own after getting his internet kicked out on the grid. He's down pit lane as well with heavy damage, so it only lasted so long.
Yeah, that's because Ted didn't give us a zoom. That's just karma.
Well, I think he did, but when his internet went out, it
good
got kicked off.
point. Yeah, well, to be fair, I was so focused during that GT3 fixed race trying to keep up with everything that was going that I didn't even see if the lovely Ted Lowendick had given us an interesting background to pick apart. Beckham Jasir has done a great job of just stretching that margin. It's only 0.2 greater than it was last time down this Almond straightaway. It kicked up to about 0.7 at its zenith before the draft did start to help Elliott White just that little bit, but really, Jasir looking strong and now has only got 2 laps left to go and looking comfortable in that Lamborghini.
All he can do right now is make 0 mistakes, and he's probably got this race won, but he's got to have in his mind, remember what happened with Elliott White. He had the race under control, and just one mistake left him the win, and Beckham Jasir has not made any mistakes. He didn't make any mistakes last night when he won the opening round of the GT4 Sprint Series on his PRL debut, and now he's looking to go 2 for 2. That would be a 100% win record in the PRL if he wins tonight.
Elliott White still hunting down, though. Acosta's not been able to close his way on through. Avando, Cortez, Kimbrough, Chris, Malagon, Dickinson, and Popoff. That's the rest of the top 10, split by 20 seconds. Remember how close they were in qualifying? Not so close when it came to consistency, lap after lap, as we wind on lap number 19. Gaps have really stretched themselves out. Let's not forget how treacherous this race has been. 56 took to the green. Likely to see less than 40 take the checkered.
I do like how we say less than 40 as if that isn't a very big number, but that's what I love about GT3 on Tuesday nights. This is the most popular series in the PRL, kind of understandable because GT3 is very easy to pick up for anybody, but we always see these massive fields and we always see these excellent battles at the head of the field because Elliott White has brought that gap back down.
He's been able to tuck himself underneath the rear wing of the Lamborghini, and now it's the charging bull up against the German grunt.
Good exit.
Who's got the best of it. They come into Sunset Bend. One more lap after this. The penultimate opportunity for Elliott White to have ascending towards Sunset. Just that little bit too far behind, but forces Jasir to open the corner up that little bit more. The corner with a million lines, though, will give back to Jasir on the exit. One more lap to go. 2 cars in contention. Who comes out on top?
White's going to use a little bit of the draft here down the front straight. There's not much of it, though. Turn 1 has so many lines. White's going to be a little bit narrower on the entry. Not going to try and go for a switchback. It's not going to do very much for him. Jasir hangs tough. Jasir doesn't defend to the inside, though. He knows he has just enough of a margin that White's not going to be able to go for a dive. But come to Sunset or come to any of these other braking zones, Jasir is going to have to start getting defensive.
Look at how the curb was used by Jasir through that complex compared to White trying to be a lot less liberal with his track usage. Lamborghini can take it out. He cannot. White again will look to the inside, but half-hearted move as Martin Crisp slides backwards through the field. SimCity racing car able to get back and going in 10th spot, but late drama for the 957. Still battling for the lead, though. Couple more opportunities. This really isn't a good one. White now going to have to wait into Jean de Bion Bend.
He's keeping touch with him, and that's what's critical here. He needs to just make sure that he's within about 1/10 and a half or so coming off of the final corner onto the back straight, and that'll give him enough of a chance to get in the draft here. As we take a look at what happened to Martin Crisp for just a moment, he was outrunning his SimCity Racing teammate, just got a little bit deep on the brakes into turn 3 and loops himself around.
Overcommitted in his desperation to make the pass. Will White be too desperate? He's been half-hearted, not really committed so far, and he'll launch himself one more time out of Le Mans onto the Almond Straight.
It's a good exit again. He got a little bit overeager coming through the second to last corner there, but he's got a great run. Might be a little bit too far back to go for the dive, but he's going to try and force Jasir into a mistake and try and go for the switchback, I think, coming to the line. Under braking, Jasir defends. White's going to try and switch it back.
I think Elliott White respected the bumps there, didn't want to try something overly dramatic to start off the 2023 Season 2 of the Precision Racing League GT3 Fix Series. Back-to-back nights with victories for Beckham Jasir, who goes from GT4 to GT3 on top. Elliott White and Abner Acosta going to round out the top 3. Acosta also returns to this GT3 series on a podium. My days, yes, it was dramatic, and yes, it was frantic at times, both for fixed and sprint, Joey, but we're in for an interesting 10 weeks.
I think poor old Devin Horvath hasn't been able to make it to the finish. I think he had a little bit of an incident through the final corner. The defending winner at Sebring, not going to be able to defend here. I think he's fallen out of the top 20, but look at that list of names in the top 10. What a mix of returning drivers and defending champions. Here's what happened to Horvath through the final corner. Oh, all on his own. The last corner of the last lap of the race. That one's going to hurt. It's going to hurt even more now that we're showing it off.
I know, and it hurts even more because of the way that he spun. It was tucked to the... Whoa! Who was that across the line?
Whoa. Oh, my goodness. Well, those are the two Joey Tebben fan club cars, I think.
Okay. Well, they had to make sure your face got plenty of drama today.
Apparently. Bumpers flying. It's a cloud of parts. That's the only fitting way a Nick McLaughlin and Ted Lowendick race can end, I think.
Did you notice that they are literally sitting in a voice channel that is called the Joey Tebben Fan Club?
That's an abuse of power. I think I'm gonna have to talk to the head honcho Jerome Bertiome here. I think they've got too much power.
Just remember, you accepted this responsibility as the voice of the PRL.
I did. I've flown too close to the sun, and my wings of wax are being melted by the Ted Lowendick sun.
Yes, you don't even need to clip them. You can just wax them. It's fantastic. Let's grab a look though at our race results after 20 laps of fighting. Beckham Jasir win number 1 in this GT3 Sprint Series, and momentum on the side of the 12. 3 Precision Racing Esports cars, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, though. Team Championship starting off with a bang for them. Acosta and Ovando 3rd and 4th behind. The number 27 Audi that pushed all the way to the very end. Interesting to note, they're all in 3 different cars: Audi, Lamborghini, and BMW. Gonzalo Cortez rounds out the top 5 with Scott Kimbrough, Juan Malagon, Sean Dickinson, and Martin Crisp, and then Alex Popoff through the top 10 with 2 of the SimCity racing machines finding their way at least to scramble some sort of a top 10 result. Fernando Yaquez in 11th in that bright orange Lamborghini in front of Adam Brockway by only 3 or so tenths of a second, with Andres Espinoza trying to chase them down. Oliver Rodriguez in front of Andrew Hardman and then in front of Francis Romero, while Ryan Pucktel extended the stint longest of all to finish his way up in the 17th spot, only gaining 2 positions relative to where he started on the day. Terrafino, Mendonca, and Menino through the top 20. Terrafino overall won't be too disappointed as he steps up, gains 15 places after qualifying back in the pack. Not the biggest mover of the day though, and that wasn't Kwok Nin, even though he had plus 18 next to his name. Caleb Lehman behind him with Devin Horvath, and then EJ Nixon, Jared Farrell, Tommy Brasone, Keith Bonilla, Diego Morales, Blake Ziti, and Alex Berstrom. They make up the top 30. Minus 23 for Diego Morales in terms of big losers, unfortunately. Sabarno Manjumdar, Joshua Spears, Nikos Tsendakis, Ryan O'Connor, Brian Curran, Andrew Sharp, Brett Thurman, J.R. Williams, Ted Lowendick, and then Michael Pabiano. I think all did end up being classified as finishers. Brian Curran, the biggest of the movers, plus 21 over the course of the race. Desjardins, McLaughlin, Scalny, Waters, Bass, Mannion, Tavares, Norris, Gonzalez, Fonseca. That's the top 50, and we still go to Arvello, Nodwell, Costello, Haynes, McInnes, and then Waring. That makes up the rest of our 56-car field. A blockbuster start to the campaign here at the Sebring International Raceway. And we now make our way down to the track for some post-race interviews, where Joey Tebben is going to start with your race winner, Beckham Jasir.
Indeed, I will. Beckham Jasir, moving your way into the PRL. Got your first win of the season in GT4 last night. Gone 2 for 2 in GT3s. It's just dominant for you. That's got to bode well for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's good to start off the first week with 2 wins, and just hoping to keep the streak going next week and the other ones.
It was quite the battle between you and Elliot at the end there. Lamborghini versus Audi. We know they're kind of similar car-wise, but where do you think you had some advantages versus the Audi, and how's that going to help you over the course of the season?
I definitely had advantages in the high-speed corners. It looked like my car had more grip out of the corners, but the schedule looks pretty interesting, so it should be a tight battle for the whole championship.
We certainly hope it will be. Very exciting out here today. Congrats on your second win, and we'll see you again on Monday night, I guess, for another GT4 race.
Yep.
Beckham Jasir, your winner on debut in the GT3 Sprint Series. And next up, it's our old defending champion, Elliot White. Unfortunately, comes up just short here. What more do you need in the final lap, Elliot?
Well, I needed to know how to pass. I mean, I haven't actually done a race at all, so I wasn't really sure how to make a pass. I probably could have tried to be a little more aggressive, but I didn't really want to. I felt like Beckham was faster than me anyways that whole race, so after I kind of bottled it, I was like, if something easy comes along, I'll try to get it, but didn't really happen for me.
Well, I'm sure as the defending champion, you probably are thinking championship-wise somehow. Does that impact the way you approach battles like this? Do you think you're going to back out of some things this season to fight for the championship, or is it always win-win-win?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess I would say for the most part championship. I kind of want to just have some fun this season and not really stress about the championship, but even so, I feel like I kind of just am worried about taking risks that I don't feel are worth it. So I feel like I kind of just drive like that in general for the most part.
Well, congrats on the podium here tonight, Mr. Defending Champion, and we'll see you in the other series where you're defending champion tomorrow night.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for the broadcast.
Elliot White, your defending GT3 Sprint champion and defending NASCAR Xfinity champion. He's going to try and go 2 for 2 again this season, but he's got his old buddy, his old teammate tomorrow night as well. Abner Acosta ends up on the podium on his return to GT3. How does it feel to be back in the GT3, Abner?
Really sweaty, and my heart rate's been up the whole time, even though I was racing by myself most of the time. But yeah, really happy with a podium. Didn't think I would get one so soon, so we'll see what happens for the next races.
Well, Abner, we're going to see you tomorrow night as well. You're still spreading your net wide here in the PRL. Congrats on the podium, and we'll see if we can get you another GT3 championship this season.
I don't know, but we'll see. I'll need a lot of practice. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.
Lots of practice, always required in the PRL here. High competition. That's frankly why I'm not driving in the series anymore. I didn't have time to practice. These guys are too good. But Abner, he's one of the best drivers, especially saving tires, and you'll see him as well tomorrow night in the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series, because that's what we love to see in the PRL. Drivers doing multiple disciplines and evidently excelling at both. It's not fair.
Let's not forget that time management may be not so important here at Sebring with the cooler track conditions, not necessarily going to be the case everywhere that we go. Let's not forget where we go next, and that's to equally tricky and I think equally chaotic Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari, also known as Imola. So many high curbs to try and mount, including this one on that run in towards that double left-hander at the end of the lap. Tricky to pass is an understatement. Qualifying going to be important, as is staying out of trouble.
And apparently, yes in Italian is C. So I did know that. I just forgot about that, but I am excited. C indeed. Sono emozionato. Quando. Bunch of food words. That's all I got, but I'll study up for the race next week, and I think it's only going to be more exciting than Sebring. Might be more exciting than Sebring. That's debatable, but it's Imola. It's usually pretty exciting.
Well, I don't know if it could be much more dramatic than Sebring, that's for sure. Here's again, just a reminder of our schedule. All roads lead on May 23rd to the Hockenheim Ring, when we'll round out 2023 Season 2 of your Precision Racing League. Plenty more interesting stops before then, not just, of course, at the second best track in the world, the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but Belle Isle's going to be curious. VIR, such an underrated track, and now without a tree. It's going to be sad, it's going to be interesting, it's going to be intriguing. That is the story of your 2023 Season 2 Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series, and that brings another Tuesday night to an end. Sebring proved to be an interesting host to the drivers to kick off the campaign, and from here they rumble on forward to Imola in 7 days' time. For now, though, it's time to bid you farewell. On behalf of the team of RaceSpotTV, for Joey Tebben alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for joining us to kick off the campaign. Don't forget, PRL action rolls on through the week. Join us, as always, here on RaceSpotTV to never miss a beat.